What is up, guys? Welcome to Truth and Transparency. Good morning. Karen Reed, Trial Watchers. What is good? We got the finalized list. Bev's Bingo. 75 words. Really quick. Time. I'll allow it. Let them have it. No. Voir dire. 6 is thank you. Publish is 7. Stricken or strike that. So these are all going on our lovely copy for all of you guys to have while you guys are watching and playing, because when we're updating, it'll just go based off of the number. Stricken, strike that. Yes. Sigh. Copy. Report. Question or questions. Jim makes it. Miss Gilman, overruled. Sustain. Admitted. Evidence. Jurors or jury. Recess. Commonwealth. Defendant. Expert. Jurors offering to take a stretch there. Break. Again, this will be all available on the community page. Testimony. Next question. Witness or witnesses. Order. Outside. Research. Again, these are all things that Bev is notorious for saying. Sidebar. Counsel. Mr. Jackson, Mr. Lally, Mr. Unetti, Miss Little, Miss Reed, Mr. Lushy. Brennan. Lally gets the ixnay. We might add them last minute. McCabe or Albert. Okay, you're all set. Turn on, off the AC or the fan. Either will be acceptable for that box. Have you read, seen, or heard any outside media? That spiel. She gives it at the beginning every day. Trooper. So we included, a lot of troopers taking the stand. So good morning, trooper. Exhibit. Admitted / admit. How much longer? Madam Court Reporter, ask or word it differently. Motion, morning. This actually is probably going to get changed. Afternoon, mark that, or is that marked? Approach. Do you have an objection, Mr. Brennan? Rephrase the question. Report. And then these just got ixnayed because there was 80 and I picked my top 75. So submit, speak up, lights or turn the lights on, turn the lights off. She always all about the lights. The sirens. Identification, ID. Rephrase. Call your next witness. Did you say that? Moving on. You may. Disregard. Lunch. This is a new trial. Can you answer that? So, again, good morning, everybody. That's in its finalization over there for our Bev's Bingo. There's 75 balls. We'll have 75 words. Next up this morning, Tom and Mike, they got in. They're suing Bev. Same things. Want to point that out, though. Tom, CPU Tom, and Mike suing Bev. We're going to talk a little bit about what happened. Kevin Clapp spoke. I'm going to grab... let's see. Hold on.
Kevin Clark. I live in Middleborough. I've moved around quite a bit because I haven't been able to find a place in Massachusetts that's not rigged yet. I don't believe there is a town or a state. I worked in law enforcement. I'm retired from the MBTA. I worked in campus police departments. I'm not here to take sides for either person. I want to see justice. I was where Karen Reed was in 2016.
Okay, that, you know, that really doesn't have to do with this police audit report.
Okay, well.
You got a question about the police audit report?
Well, we don't have anything to hide, ma'am. You'd let me speak, and then I'll get to my point.
Well,
I think everyone in here is going to want to hear what I got in the mail. And
does it relate to the police audit report, what you got in the mail?
well, indirectly, but I'm going to ask one question first that relates to the solo cups I'm going to put out to rest. They talk about a leaf blower. Can somebody explain that to me? Because I've never seen a leaf blower on a police cruiser before. Where did it come from? Do they carry leaf blowers? Was it electric or gas? And my God, it would make an awful lot of noise to use a leaf blower in the middle of the night. So could you please exploit yourself a little bit on that about the leaf blower? Because that, to me, is bizarre.
So I think we covered the leaf blower in the main presentation. Is there
Can you
anything
not
to
interrupt him and let him speak? I feel like Trump now.
That's enough. Was there anything to add to the explanation you gave? Okay, all right, thank you very much. We'll go to microphone number 1.
Rita Lombardi, Canton.
Hold on one second. Let's see.
Still on?
Still God, it would make an.
Okay.
We'll defer to you. Go ahead.
My name is Kevin Clapp. I live in Middleborough. I've moved around quite a bit because I haven't been able to find a place in Massachusetts that's not rigged yet. I don't believe there is a town or a state. I worked in law enforcement. I'm retired from the MBTA. I worked on campus police departments. I'm not here to take sides for either person. I want to see justice. I was where Karen Reed was in 2016.
Okay, that, you know, that really doesn't have to do with this police audit report.
Okay, well.
You got a question about the police audit report?
Well, we don't have anything to hide, ma'am. You'd let me speak, and then I'll get to my point.
Well,
Because I think everyone in here is going to want to hear what I got in the mail.
Kevin, let's give Kevin a call. I told you guys he got in the mail. He got summoned to be a juror. And then he called about it. He had a report on April 1st. And so he calls about it. And they're like, oh, you? Oh, yeah, you don't have to worry about coming. He calls him on the phone because he had some type of question. Because he gets those things done all the time. And he got called for the Karen Reed trial. What else isn't done on for April 1st to come out there. And they told him to not even bother showing up. They told him that. Don't even bother showing up. So that's why he's like, I think you guys are going to be interested to see what I got in the mail. And I feel bad because Kevin wanted to speak on some things and nobody wants to give him the opportunity to speak. So I'm like, we'll give Kevin the opportunity to speak. First of all, that's not how that works. Kevin, if he was summoned, you still show up and you go through the process. And so what he wanted to speak about was how many other people were being told not to show up. Okay. Which I think it's right. So they had a big Canton community forum. And so Kevin went.
Okay.
Does it relate
Okay.
to the police audit report, what you got in the mail?
Well, indirectly, but I'm going to ask one question first that relates to the solo cups. I'm going to put out to rest. You talk about a leaf blower. Can somebody explain that to me? Because I've never seen a leaf blower on a police cruiser before. Where did it come from? Do they carry leaf blowers? Was it electric or gas? And my God, it would make an awful lot of noise to use a leaf blower in the middle of the night. So could you please exploit yourself a little bit on that about the leaf blower? Because that, to me, is bizarre.
Is bizarre.
So I
So,
think we covered the leaf blower in the main
show the
presentation. Is
video.
there
Can you
anything
not
to add?
interrupt him and let him speak? I feel like Trump now.
That's enough.
He would like
You guys go back and listen to my interviews with him. Oh, I'm like, Kevin. Everybody's like, you know, I had to try to like direct our interview because he'll go off on tangents, just like anybody. So it's like, stay right here. But I knew we were going to get a Trump in there. It's so bizarre. Can you not remember?
Is there anything to add to the explanation you gave? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We'll go to microphone number 1.
Rita Lombardi, Canton. The performance of people impacts credibility. And we mentioned earlier that there was someone who was put on paid leave over the summer for leaving his badge and gun and being out drunk. Okay. And then eventually they did the internal affairs investigation and he was suspended either 3 to 5 days. So when is something like that seems so egregious to people, and then it appears he gets the summer
Everybody's leaving.
off, that damages credibility. Did you get any insight as to why it took 3 months, why that person was given a 3-month leave over a beautiful summer?
Well, one of the things I'd said was he shouldn't have, but it was outside sourced because the perception that the Canton Police Department can police themselves, the decision was made to take this investigation to an outside authority to conduct an investigation that should have taken a week. So that's why he's on administrative leave, because pending those findings, the most prudent thing to do is not to have him in the department should these findings come back more significant than what they're expected to. They did not. So then he came back to work after that. But aside from the administrative leave, that officer's put at a hardship financially. The department's put at a hardship financially, and the town. So that is why we recommend strongly not to outsource internal affairs investigations. And then Rita, wow, you're gonna be shocked when I say this. In my time overseeing the internal affairs process for DEA, probably suspended 130 guys for having a drink on the way home. It's not that egregious, man. It happens.
Right.
And what you hope is the officers say, yeah, I stopped, I had a sandwich, I had a beer. And you say, well, you can't do that in your police vehicle. And you wear the suspension and everybody moves on. So in terms of like that act being a very egregious, alarming thing, it's not. It shouldn't happen.
It's not. It's not. It's just not. All right. So,
Compliance review of the police department to be conducted by an independent consulting firm, together with an appropriation of $200,000 to cover the cost of the audit. That bill further provided that
all right. So I wanted to learn about that. So this audit cost $200,000 to do this audit. All right. That's what some people pay an attorney in a very serious murder case as a defense attorney. That's it's 3 times as much what Sheldon's attorneys were paid to represent him.
In accordance with public records law, the results of the independent consultant's report shall be made public upon completion. Through a competitive bidding process, the very well-qualified firm of Five Stones Intelligence was selected by the audit committee to conduct the audit. The full
There was a bidding process, so that means people submitted dollar amounts to do it. Do they announce what the other bids were?
audit report was made public by posting on the town's website on April 1st. The report took 4 months to complete and weighs in at 200 pages. We're here
4 months, 200 grand. How many people were in on this?
today to hear directly from Five Stones Intelligence about the findings and recommendations of the audit, and to provide citizens an opportunity to ask questions about those findings and recommendations and the methodology of the audit. And that's our complete agenda for today.
Okay, methodology. How much notice did they give that they were going to be doing this? You know, how much notice was there that they were going to have this open forum?
2 words about how we will be running today's meeting. And you will find everything that I'm about to say on the handout that was in the lobby, the community meeting sheet and the procedures for Q&A. Today's meeting will conclude no later than 5 p.m. and we'll begin with a presentation by Five Stones Intelligence, which should take us to just before 3:30. And we'll hold questions until the conclusion of that presentation. The rest of the meeting will be dedicated to questions and answers with Five Stones Intelligence.
The cadre of employees.
Right there. So it's 10 after 2 when they pretty much get started.
Hanging on the stands there. When you are recognized, please state your name and your town and proceed with your question, and you'll have 2 minutes. And the time limit is intended to permit as many people as possible to have an opportunity to
us additional information or asked us to look into certain events, even if those events were not included in the scope. We reviewed everything on site and or ahead of time. Canton Police Department provided all of their policies, rules, and regulations to us electronically, so we could start much of the review prior to our arrival. Myself, Brian, and Bailey have been on site probably just under 2 months when you take the time. We were up here for weeks, sometimes 10 days, sometimes 2 weeks at a time, working within the Canton Police Department and the town. We reviewed all previous town meetings. We watched the audit committee. We watched some of the select board committee meetings. We did everything we could to understand what it is your concerns were and how we could best approach this audit to give you the most detailed result. Understand what the department does well, and more importantly, what the department could improve upon. So we did an overall assessment of the department as outlined by your police audit procurement committee, and I believe as agreed upon through town votes. So what it is we're presenting to you is what it is you've asked us to assess, what it is you've asked us to address. And that is important too, because part of our job to answer to the citizens of the town is to understand what the environment is. So start off by saying that all the written policy was in complete alignment with the accreditation authorities. We then cross-referenced it to multiple accreditation authorities to give you the biggest bang for your buck as we could. We went through crime scene protocols. The recommendations that were made in crime scene protocols relate to all crime scenes. So when we make a recommendation, we're not talking about specifically one case or another case or another case. It's a summary of what we've seen take place at multiple crime scenes. And we have reviewed crime scenes for the Canton PD that go back almost 10 years. However, we all know there's 2 very significant cases, and they just don't occur a lot here. So we didn't shy away from those things. We addressed those as well. As I told you earlier,
methodology.
We could review ahead of time. We did, whether it was a meeting or a policy, a regulation, a code, any kind of case file or electronic report that could be sent to us. We reviewed them prior to getting here to make our time here more efficient and more productive. We then took everything that we found, everything that we read, everything that we learned, and applied it against what was done in the field. And that's really how any assessment should occur. You have to ask, what are they supposed to do? What occurred? What did they do? And if it doesn't line up with what was written and what was performed, then you have the question of why you have that deviation. That's what our report is. So we do not.
Okay, so then why? There you go. So based off of this methodology, you're going to find that you're going to ask, okay, hey, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what you did. This is the outcome. And why did you do what you did? And I never saw the whys. Like, that's what I thought was missing, was like
go through the details in our report,
the
how we
whys.
reviewed things and what we reviewed, because the meat of the report are the recommendations or those policies that we've identified that maybe there's some gaps between the written form and the application. So we started off with your written policies. We looked at 98 policies and applied them as they were written. These are some of the different accreditation facilities we weighed them against. What we want to know, or want you to know, is that your department was just certified 4 months before you hired us by the Massachusetts Police Accreditation and Compliance Act. So MPAC, they were certified before we got here. So that is your governing body that determines whether or not your department meets its requirements. MPAC certified your department in June of 2024. So we did not come behind them and then go back and measure their requirements. We are not in a position to measure whether or not the department's in compliance with MPAC if MPAC was just here and said they're in compliance. So what we did is we took the existing policies as they were written and we weighed them against CALEA. which is sort of considered the gold standard in law enforcement.
So basically what they're saying is that even though you weren't in 2022 or 2021 or 2020 up to those standards, you are now.
Accreditation agencies, and we also measure them against, of course, general law, Massachusetts general law. That comes into play as we speak about crime scenes. But I want you to know that's how we did it. We used Mass General Law, post requirements from Massachusetts, and CLIA as our measuring sticks. So when you read the report, you don't see us referring to MPAC, again, because you just had MPAC come in and certify your department. 483 standards related to law enforcement. As they're written for the CPD, you're in complete compliance with every major accrediting department across the country. The CPD is not out
Yeah, now.
of compliance with any written policy, any standard, or any requirement as it applies to their daily operations. What we did see, and some of the stuff we would recommend, were officers' personal use of cell phones. While it's not a violation and MPAC approves it, the use of personal cell phones. And the CPD policy, I believe, said in a last case resort, we recommend your department have department-issued phones. All you have to do is watch the current trial taking place to see what the pitfalls can be for an officer using his personal cell phone in the course of duty. So one of our recommendations is your officers have department-issued phones. Another recommendation would be that every officer certifies annually that they have read, understood, and will abide by these policies. That is just on top. That is not a requirement of any of the major agencies, but it is best practice that annually your officers certify, hey, I've read my policies, I know what they're as it relates to certain crime scenes and their investigation. But the big thing everybody has to understand is this, is there's a consensus in this town or a thought that the Canton Police Department is recused from these investigations. They're not. This isn't my opinion. This is Massachusetts state law. So there are three.
Yeah, so that's actually really important. Is why were they? Like, and so that's where I believe that the corruption is. The corruption is going, it's hey, we're the local police, but if there's like suspicious deaths, homicides, things like that, like we're just automatically just turning and handing them over to the Massachusetts State Police. And it's like, why? What are you doing? Why would you ever do that? It doesn't make any sense. But then the more you think about it, when you want to talk about just where we're going to police, the local police are like, okay, yeah, call us if there's a domestic dispute, or call us if your bike is stolen. We're giving out tickets. I mean, but what's supposed to happen here is that you're calling in, like how Moscow Police Department did it. We're calling in people to help with resources. That's what he's saying, is that why Canton is just recusing themselves from all these cases. That's in-depth investigate. That's not what's supposed to happen.
Towns within the state of Massachusetts that conduct their own homicide investigations. And I think it's Boston PD, Worcester, and Springfield. I can remember the first two, but I'm not from here, so I don't remember the third town. But what it says right here, and you can read it yourself, is that any unattended death, right, that is suspicious in nature, is immediately given to the jurisdiction of that district attorney to be investigated by his designee. His designee is the Mass State Police. The very law after that says the district attorney or their representative shall direct and control the investigation and coordinate it with the department within the jurisdiction of the death. Canton PD is not recused from any case, nor are they conflicted out of any case. What we did see, though, is an attempt to be, oh, my clicker's broke now. Uh-oh. All right, I gotta get the IT guy because I don't know if the clicker's working right now. Lewis? Oh, there it goes. Oh, there we go. So what we do see, and these are our recommendations again, and these recommendations speak to all the crime scenes. I'm not talking about the tragic death of John O'Keefe. I'm not talking about strictly the tragic death of Ms. Birchmore or Mr. Casey. We're talking about all the crime scenes that we've looked at for the past 10 years. These are what some of the improvements that we think could take place. The biggest.
What crime scenes were there? They weren't even like. Did they give any examples? I didn't read all 200 pages, but.
Let's stop from the bottom and go up. Canton PD is your police department, and they're a very good police department, and they're a very professional police department. They should stop recusing themselves because, quite frankly, it's not working. The efforts of the Canton PD to recuse themselves, to give the town a sense of there's no impropriety, have created gaps in the coordination of significant investigations. And if you go back and look at the current trial that's taking place, you can see what.
So then we should ask ourselves, why are they? Why are they? Why are they? That's the question to ask, that is to say, why, like, did you ask Canton why they did it? That's the whole point of this. Why was Canton recusing themselves? Why would that be? Why is that what the chief was just doing? Like, that's the question. What was the purpose?
What some of those gaps were. The CPD should not recuse itself from any case. It should have its own case file, and it should work in conjunction with the Mass State Police in every homicide or every unattended death that occurs within the city, the town limits. Better coordination with the state police communication, collection methods, documentation, photographs, interviews, and crime scenes, the preservation. These are the areas of concern for us. And this sort of is a big circle because all these things.
Well, it doesn't say areas of concern. It says recommendations. Where on that page you see concerns. But see, people like this wouldn't have jobs if they worded things certain ways. No one's gonna want them to be the person that's picked to do this audit.
Things interact with each other. So when we say crime scene preservation, and we got some of these questions the other night at the town audit committee, well, it's like, well, isn't our police department trained? Yes, but you're trained for the specific things that you do every day. So right now, if you have a police officer that's promoted to detective, they come in and it's like, congratulations, you're a detective. You owe them that additional training if you want them to perform at the level that you're setting for them. And basic crime scene preservation, particularly if they stop the recusal, the self-recusals, again, that should stop. And if they're going to partake in this, have the ability to preserve that crime scene until the Mass State Police or Plymouth County get there. Why would I say that? Because the Mass State Police and Plymouth County process crime scenes every day. I believe prior to Ms. Birchmore, you hadn't had a homicide occur in your town in 22 years. Was that right? 22 years. So it's hard to process a murder scene if you don't see them every day.
But it wasn't considered a homicide at first. So go back and ask how many suspicious deaths, how many unattended deaths have there been? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, that's the ridiculous. That's those. You have to take really good notes to get really something out of asking questions at the end.
And what we told the procurement committee tonight is Brian and Bailey and I, we worked in cities where you have 3 homicides between the time we reported to work and lunch. Brian ran our Chicago office. And if you've ever read the news, they would have 70 homicides in a weekend. So you are good at what you do. And it's a great thing, if you think about it, that you don't have a police department that is super proficient and able to process murder scenes like it happens every day, because they don't. Now, obviously, we know just the recent events, they do occur. So you want your department to have the basic ability to seal off a scene, get a scribe, do some of the things that are necessary to preserve the evidence as it lies prior to the Mass State Police arriving, and then they work that case in conjunction with the Mass State Police.
Both of the cases that we're talking about, they were not like considered at first to be homicides. You fucking idiot. What a stupid fucking example. What a dumb fuck.
My photographs.
Dumb example.
Some of the recommendations in the report, make sure there's a collection kit in every sergeant's vehicle. Every shift has a sergeant. That sergeant's on the road. Should one of these things happen, that sergeant can roll up and there's a kit available. January 29th, 2022, there weren't kits in every car. There weren't blood collection kits at the police department because the Canton Police Department doesn't collect blood. So these are some of the things we noted. And I also want to let you know this too. As we did this.
The Canton Police Department doesn't collect blood? Okay, so then what? They need to call out who does immediately?
Audit, when we found something, we immediately formed the CPD command staff. And some people were very shocked to hear that we did that, but why would we look to you as a town that brought us here, find a mistake or an error or something that could be improved and not say something for 5 months? That doesn't make sense. So when we saw a deficiency, when we saw a gap, when we saw something that could be improved, we brought it to the attention of the command staff. Now, we have integrity, so it doesn't mean we didn't document it. It doesn't mean we don't say we didn't have a finding, but there are certain instances where we addressed things. We brought it to the command staff and said, look, this is not good. This isn't in line with best practices. This can be improved. And those changes were implemented right away. And changes were made. The department got better, but we still documented it, still in the report. So nothing was swept under the rug. We didn't look the other way. We addressed everything. And it goes to this bottom bullet about recusal and integrity. Recusing yourself from something is not integrity. So for those that think that it's an integrity-driven act to recuse yourself from something, integrity is when you have to look at somebody and say, hey, this is wrong. You made a mistake. I'm calling it out. We've got to fix it, and you address it. You work through it. We didn't shy away from bringing anything to the attention of the CPD command staff or the police procurement audit committee. But when we did, it was acted on immediately. We weren't influenced. The emails about things being swept under the rug. We got a lot of emails about impropriety. So we go back and we look, and through our communication with Post actually emailed the CPD and said, you're over-reporting. The only requirement for Post is the reporting of significant acts of misconduct, which would be a violation of civil rights, any kind of criminal act, any excessive use of force. Your police department was reporting everything. And as you can see, February 23, the director of Post actually emailed your chief and said, stop, you've exceeded your requirement, and this isn't what Post is set up to monitor. So as far as the accountability goes for internal affairs, they're accountable, they're in line with policy, but their practices weren't consistent.
Why do you think all of this shit started happening? Like on February 3rd, 2023, the executive director of the Massachusetts Post Commission emailed the chiefs, sheriffs, stating only certain levels of sustained misconduct should be reported. Specifically, sustained misconduct of a serious nature was to be reported. CPD Chief Rafferty exceeded Massachusetts Post reporting requirements. Why do you think? In 2023. Ask her, what about, did she exceed that in 2020, 2019, 2018, 17? I mean, the fuck out of here.
with best practice and standards as it relates to documentation and adjudication. So here's 2 cases that will illustrate my point to this. This is the first case. A detective from the CPD reported to work and tragically left his family pet in the car, and that pet passed away through the course of the day. So the outcome of that case was that officer was not disciplined. And I will stand here before you and I'll field your questions. That was the right decision. And you would say, why is that the right decision? Well, because you have to understand there's a difference between discretion and corruption. The police department has discretion, and you have to think of the intent. And did this officer receive special treatment? I would argue no. And the reason is because I believe it was 8 months before this happened to the officer, December before, it happened to another civilian in town. They had their family pet go into a car prior to a fishing trip. Tragically, it died. They couldn't find the pet for 2 days. The police department responded. They understood it was an accident. They understood the traumatic effect it took on the family, and they made the correct decision not to charge that civilian. This event then happened to Detective Taylor. They followed that same process. They responded. They looked at the scene. They understand it was a traumatic event. They saw the toll it was taken on the family. They made the decision not to charge Detective Taylor for a crime. It happened after Detective Taylor. Another citizen in the town of Canton, going golfing, went to get something out of his wife's car. Their dog got in his wife's car. He closed the door and went golfing. At the end of the day, when he returned, the family pet was found dead. The police responded. They realized the circumstances. They realized it was an accident. They called animal control. They did not charge that civilian. It happened again with a town of Canton employee who continually left their pet, I believe this was in the wintertime, in their car while they reported to work in the city county building. And you had multiple other employees in the building call and complain. That town employee received 5 warnings by the Canton Police Department before they were eventually summoned, issued a summons. So the action with Detective Taylor was consistent with the way they treated every other civilian in the town who committed the same act. Our problem with, or what we identified that could be better with Detective Taylor's incident, while it would have been uncomfortable that day, you have to bring Detective Taylor in and take a statement from him. And when you take that statement from Detective Taylor, he is not going to be happy. He's probably going to be mad at you. But then I'm going to take a statement from other people in the department and say, hey, Detective Taylor said he got to work, and then he came in and worked with Bob and Joe. I got to take a statement from Bob and Joe, and I got to record that. At the end of the day, I'm going to come to the same conclusion. I'm not going to levy charges against the detective when I haven't levied them against other people in the town that have done the same thing. But what that internal affairs investigation is going to do is answer the questions of the public. When the public looks and says, did you sweep this under the rug? The answer to that is no, because we looked through this, we understand it, and we also understand and we applied what happened to Detective Taylor to what happened with other civilians. Now, at the conclusion of Detective Taylor, they did call animal control, and the main officer was away, and I believe her assistant showed up. With all the confusion going on and the effect that Detective Taylor felt, he was put on administrative leave, which is within the authority of the chief of police in any department for an officer that goes through anything traumatic. He was sent home on admin leave, maybe for 3 days, and then he took his sick leave. He did that because this was an unintentional act, and it devastated his family, and he's going to have to live with that. Again, processing of that, probably not done the right way. Before he leaves, you got to get a statement from Detective Taylor and from the other officers involved. What?
Did you get other statement, like, so when you compare it to other situations, so that didn't happen though. So it is different, right?
What the officers need to understand is that you're not going to take that statement because you're trying to hurt them. You're trying to protect them when someone comes 2 years later and alleges misconduct. You can say, no, we followed the standard and we have these reports written. One of the big things we found with Detective Taylor was that the department paid for his car to be cleaned when he left. So 2 of his coworkers picked up the dog, took it, and paid for the cremation out of their pocket. I think the department paid $730 out of town funds to have his car cleaned. If we have a good internal affairs process and we have that noted, that gets caught sooner. It was eventually flagged. Detective Taylor wrote a check to the town and reimbursed the town for that. But again, a proper internal affairs process in the beginning catches these things because all of your actions are documented. And I hope that makes sense. So you interview them, you understand who's doing what, you write down who did what, you write down that 2 sergeants took the dog to be cremated, you write down he went home and was placed on administrative leave, you write down that, hey, based on timing, this is what we did. The fastest way to get his car clean was to do it this way. Now I have a record of everything. Now I see that, hey, Detective Taylor now owes the town. So when that was discovered, brought up to everybody, yep, acknowledged, Detective Taylor wrote the check, reimbursed the town. Another internal affairs investigation, and I'm guessing you're not going to be happy to hear this. This was another one, though, and this is the complete opposite of what we have seen occur in this town based upon allegations and inferences of corruption. And again, I think it's important to draw a distinction between discretion and corruption. In this instance, you had a detective leave a badge and consume alcohol while on duty. Okay, this guy was put on administrative leave. I think it was 12 weeks or 11 weeks. An independent company came in to conduct the investigation because of the desire to recuse and to give the public the sense of there's no impropriety here. The town paid for the detective to be home on administrative leave for 12 weeks. You also paid an outside company to come conduct an investigation that could have been conducted by the CPD. And where it landed was right. I believe this detective received a 5-day suspension, which was right. The path to get to these 2 outcomes was inconsistent and not correct. This bottom investigation should have taken 3 days. And when this allegation comes in, I look at it, I say me, but your command staff looks at it, it gets delegated to a lieutenant. This is the allegation, go investigate it. Again, recusal is not integrity. So, and not that anybody cares, but I'm gonna tell you, in my previous life, when I was part of the internal affairs process for DEA, there were people that sat across from me that I've known for decades. And that I actually, my wording to them was, I love you, and I'll do everything I can do to help you, but I also am gonna suspend you right now for 12 days because you committed these violations. You broke these policies. That is integrity. Your department is perfectly capable of doing these investigations on their own. And we'll outline briefly the process that we recommended in the report if it's not clear. This investigation should have taken 3 days. It should have came in, should have been delegated to a sergeant. That sergeant then goes to, or that lieutenant goes to the sergeant of the detective bureau and says, hey, this guy drank on the Cape. Did you know he was on the Cape? Oh, yep, he was conducting this interview on this case. Now I know he's authorized to be where he is. I can then call the officer in and I take a statement. The officer gives me the statement. Okay, yeah, stop. I had a beer. This is what happened. I left my thing in the car. Great. I memorialize that. I take a statement from the sergeant. When he grading skill, and if it's not constantly practiced, you lose.
Awesome. Awesome. What do we think? The audit's going to help anybody, hurt anybody? I mean, Karen Reed trial, 2.0. No, I don't think that they're going to be talking about it. How do you just like throw this in the mix? I mean, well, what else is happening? We got 10 jurors. We're waiting for 6 more. Geez, let's see. Yeah. You would think a big suburb or like a nice suburb would have dash cams, body cams. I mean, whatever. Test chart is unavailable to testify, and the Commonwealth had to put in a motion to obtain approval for this other person to be able to testify to her reports. That was one of the latest filings. That's going to be allowed. She has a medical reasoning. Turtle Boy had a trivia night for Canton Trivia. Just fucking stellar shit over there. What else? Okay. Obviously, they're appealing to the higher courts with Karen's ruling. Bev's just having drinks. Let's see. Defendant's response to Commonwealth's renewed motion limited to exclude expert testimony of Garrett Wing. Canton PD did a terrible job investigating OJO's death, but MSP did even worse. They really showed bias. That's not okay. I mean, I just don't understand. A crime scene is a crime scene. So it doesn't matter if it's like a homicide or it doesn't matter whatever it would be. Preserving a crime scene and as far as like roping it off and having somebody stand there and like goes back to fundamentals of anything. When you don't have fundamentals, like you fucking suck. These people are all lacking fundamentals. They all cut corners. They just do whatever the fuck they want. And this audit is a joke because it's like, yep, everything's where it needs to be, now. Okay, sounds good. If that was the purpose of the audit, I mean, I don't know what the town of Canton people wanted. I don't know. I think if they were thinking that people were going to get fired over the audit, I don't know if that's what they were intending. I'm thinking that was going to happen. And they're idiots for thinking that. If they wanted, hey, we just want to make sure that our town's safe and that we have these jackasses, got their shit together. So there's another, there's not another Karen Reed situation. That's what the audit should have been for. Do you have or want, I have it. I don't know what you would want from something like that. What do you expect? Everything goes back to expectations. Defendant's response to Commonwealth renewed motion in limine to exclude expert testimony. Now comes the defendant Karen Reed in the above captioned matter and respectfully request this court to deny the Commonwealth's renewed motion in limine to exclude expert testimony of Garrett Wing renewed motion. The entirety of the Commonwealth's renewed motion appears to be based upon the inaccurate premises that premise that the defense intends to call Garrett as a surrebuttal expert, and they're saying that that's not the case. You got it wrong. Per norm with Hank. Hank just talks out of his ass. He misquotes the record all the time. In actuality, the defendant intends to call Lieutenant Wing as an expert witness in her case in chief and not as rebuttal witness to Dr. Crosby's testimony. On this basis alone, the Commonwealth's motion should be denied. As the defense has stated previously, on June 18, 2024, this court determined that only a medical doctor could opine on the medical cause of an injury to a human. Until March 6, 2025, the defense therefore operated under that impression that only medical doctors are able to testify as to the medical causation of an injury to humans, including injuries caused by dog bites and or claw marks. This court's March 6, 2025 order caused the defendant to revisit the topic of the wounds in the right arm of the decedent, including potential witnesses, expert, and dog-inflicted wounds on humans who are not medical doctors. At no point did the defense ever express that Wing is intended to purely as a rebuttal witness for Dr. Crosby, rather that the court's determination of Dr. Crosby included the defense's motion for reconsideration of the March 6 order would inform defense strategy regarding Wing. Additionally, until the March 6 order, several questions remained about how the defense would proceed relative to the Commonwealth's treatment of Dr. Crosby. At oral argument on March 4, 2025, the Commonwealth verbally stated that it did not intend to call Dr. Crosby in their case in chief and intended only to call him as a rebuttal witness against the testimony of defense expert witness, Dr. Marie Russell. The court asked, so just to be clear, the Commonwealth does not intend, if I permit the testimony, does not intend to call him in your case in chief. The Commonwealth responded, absolutely not. Commonwealth renewed motion. However, the court's March 6 order contained no such limitation on the scope of Dr. Crosby's testimony for the Commonwealth to call him only as a rebuttal witness. Due to the lack of memorialization of the Commonwealth's stipulation, the defense reasonably assumed that the Commonwealth could call Dr. Crosby in its case in chief, should it choose to. See, this is how lazy Bev is. For the first ever time in writing, and after receiving the report of Wing in its renowned motion, the Commonwealth states that it intends to offer Dr. Crosby only if necessary to rebut the testimony of Dr. Russell. Commonwealth motion at 1. The defense intends to call Wing as an expert witness in her case in chief. This is wild. You want to know why this is wild? Because there's usually a case management order. Case motherfucking management order. We have dates and deadlines that the Commonwealth puts all of their expert witnesses in. Okay? Then, and when I say puts them in, it's you have a list. Here are my experts. This is their report. This, and in their report has everything that it should. Your opinions on what the fuck whatever it is that your expertise is in. Okay. Then the defense gets their experts in, and then there's going to come a time that you can have like your rebuttals. There's all these dates. How the fuck is this happening literally right now? This doesn't even make any sense. How this is not this just seems like it's a violation of Karen Reed's procedural due process. This is not due process. This is not due process. Like, this is insane. Ridiculous. The defendant intends to call Wing as an expert witness in her case in chief. Wing's decades of knowledge, skill, training, and experience, together with his documented methodology, qualify him on the subject of dog-inflicted wounds on humans to cure any perceived complaints by the Commonwealth with Wing's original report. The defendant will provide an amended report of Wing, which will remove all references to Dr. Crosby. The defense expects to provide this amended report to the Commonwealth within the next 5 calendar days. I just cannot believe that this is happening right now. This is a fucking joke. You know, I'm not going to lie. I was telling Bella, if I didn't care so much, like just personally have interest just in to like watch this, I would not be covering this case. This is nuts. It's become a joke. It's a fucking joke. Like, you have no idea. Like, I'm so turned off by everything fucking Karen Reed. Thank God there's Bev's bingo. I mean, because fucking mess. You know, like, so many other people need their cases just displayed, and because Karen Reed, I mean, I don't care whatever happens in this trial. If she's found guilty, like, there's gonna be another one, guys. There's gonna be a fucking another one. Obviously, if she's found not guilty, it's double. Like, you can't try her again. But this is insane. It's sad. But how people are arguing right now over experts, like last minute. I mean, I'm sorry, but where's the goddamn case management order? Where is it? I'm just curious when these fucking deadlines were. Girl needs some fruit punch after that shit. There's 186 people on a witness list, right? So I went and pulled out like the last trial. Where is it? Right here. Ooh. We have a another Sallyport problem. Okay. So I went back here to, this is Alan Jackson's, this is motion 522. It was the affidavit of Alan Jackson. And I went to look at the September 6, 2022, the defendant's motion to compel discovery. And this is how Bev handles her shit down here. Like, allowed. Denied. These numbers are allowed. These numbers are denied. Like, what the fuck? So, allowed are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12 as amended, 13 and 15. And then I said, okay, number 7. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 7 was denied. Number 7. All communication between Trooper Proctor and any of the, hold on, there we go. Okay. Make this bigger. Precipitant witnesses in this case, including but not limited to Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, Brian Higgins, Caitlin Albert, Helen Albert, Ryan Nagel, Julie Nagel, Carrie Robert, and or Julie Albert. This should include a record of all calls, text messages, emails, and or messages sent between and among these individuals through any applications. That was denied. 6 was denied. All communications, this was in 2022 in September. All communications between and among any law enforcement agent from the Canton Police Department and or the Massachusetts State Police, on the one hand, and any of the witnesses in this case. My question is how the fuck is that getting denied? This is an investigation. We want all your communication that you've ever had with these people. What the fuck? How does that get denied? Photographs of all physical evidence collected in connection with this case, including the metadata associated with those photographs. 5 was allowed. Photographs of all physical evidence collected in connection with this case. Well, since they use okay, so this is my issue. Why didn't we go back, Did they ever do another motion to compel things like this after finding out that people were using their personal cell phones? Because I think that you might have a chance at emergency motion right here based on the audit that you could get. Now you could maybe get this shit. I'm just saying, if fucking deadlines don't mean anything, if I'm Karen Reed, I'm filing this shit. I'm filing and saying, I'm going after Matt McCabe's cell phone. I'm going after his CDRs. I want to know who that motherfucker called and texted on the night of the murder, like the 28 and 29. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? I mean, this is the shit that matters. His CDRs, that is your call detail records, just like how we have Jennifer McCabe's. But I'm telling you, Matt McCabe's call detail record is fucking so important to this case. You'll see everybody in who he called, and you're going to see up until 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm telling you, ooh, daddy. And my motion that I'd be putting in, and the reason why we're asking for it is because I'd be putting in an affidavit with Richard Green, okay, to support it and to say that the phone and the watch were not at the same. The phone and the watch, the data is clashing, and therefore have reason to believe that somebody else was using it, and the somebody else would be Matt McCabe. But these people were and then when you talk about the law enforcement people, the audit comes out, they're all using their personal cell phones. I'm sorry, but for you not to know what time it was when the leaf blower was used, that was recorded on a cell phone. All of our cell phones, that's all geo. It fucking says the date, time, where the fuck you were with your smartphone. All communications between Chief Berkowitz and any of the witnesses. She denied that back in the day. All communication between Detective Brian Tully and any of the witnesses. How is she denying that? How is she fucking denying that? But I think that, I don't know if it's been asked for and how it's been asked for ever since, but you're allowed to put, based upon new information, you can say X, Y, and Z. Then she says no to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So let's see what 10 is. All communications between and among any law enforcement agents from the Massachusetts Police and any law enforcement agents from the Canton. How does that get denied? How is this denied? Between at 7:59 a.m. and present concerning the investigation. How does that get denied? All communications between and among any law enforcement agents from the Massachusetts State Police and any law enforcement agents from the Canton Police Department between 7:59 a.m. and present concerning the investigation. I mean, I would be putting a new one in and saying, dude, just get the fucking shit from this day until February 12th, the last piece of when the shit was found, the taillight. She don't want to break that thin blue line. What's a woman doing chaos? I just think that these need to be put in there. I mean, you know what a big mess this case is? I mean, the person that's gonna, I mean, maybe that's why they put their appeals people on right now. They need to be, because it's just, this case is just so fucking whack with, like, there is no consistency whatsoever. They asked for a complete set of the exhibits presented to the grand jury in this case. This should include identification of how those exhibits were marked, so that the defense counsel can determine what documents were shown to the grand jurors in this case. To date, the defense has not received the grand jury exhibits identified as 18, 19, 48, 75, 82, 84, 103, and 124 through 127 in any form. A copy of all Ring video. So I want to talk about this Ring video that's made. It's fucking all right. There's a video surfacing, and they're like, "Oh my god, look at the cops are already on to Karen Reed." It's like, no. Let me tell you what they were onto. Carrie Roberts made a phone call to Good. Okay, so you're gonna be able to use this at trial. Nobody ever asked him like what he did after Carrie Roberts called Good, because the blue lights, I do agree. I think that it's a law enforcement vehicle. It's not like plow or anything. And it looks like it was heading on over to John O'Keefe's house, as Karen's, leaving. But it was right after Carrie Roberts' call. So that would make sense that, but who's even driving that vehicle? Who's driving that vehicle? What time's the exchange again? When the shift starts and ends? But I don't get the whole thing that they were like. But the Ring video, a copy of all Ring video surveillance footage stored on Mr. O'Keefe's device. Basically, one side's trying to say that Karen Reed was the deleter of the. I'm gonna tell you how I know that Karen Reed's not the deleter of it. If Karen Reed was the deleter of the video footage, that shit would have surfaced. That shit would have surfaced, and they would have used it against Karen Reed. Okay, as deleting things. But when you want to break down how many things that would have had to been deleted, and who would have immediately known to go and get that shit, the McCabes. The McCabes always talked about, and Carrie Roberts, like that John was always looking at that fucking thing and seeing when the kids came home and stuff like that. Like they knew that he had that. So, but why would anybody even feel like they needed to, like, what would be the Ring camera so important? Because Jen and Matt went there. Somebody got out of the car, aka Matt, with Jen's phone, got out of the car between 1:55 and 1:57 a.m. And I believe it was at that house. Time to do a FOIA request. I can't. FOIA request to get what? This is. I can't get. We won't be able to get anything on this until after the case. And all you'll be able to get is like. That's going to be one hell of a FOIA. I'm saying the defense team can go and get this. There's Ring camera footage deleted from the morning of as well. And they deleted her coming home because they didn't know if it showed anything or not on Karen's shit on her car. But I personally believe that they went over. When I say they, I believe that Higgins and Matt McCabe went over to John O'Keefe's house, and that's why Matt McCabe never drove with Karen and them. They went over and they busted out some of her taillight. Because I personally believe that it was like a twofer. They did it twice. Because if Canton Police Department was going to come back out and look around between the time of 9 to like 5, because remember, they didn't know if Massachusetts State Police was coming in. Like, there was like, okay, so we have to get some taillight out there. And you have to get some taillight out there because if you don't know when they're coming. And so you have access to, you got to get over to her car. And I noticed that when they were asking Matt questions, the first thing that he said on the stand was, I didn't want her driving with Karen, who's drunk. Well, then why the fuck would you ever let her leave with her? You know what I mean? Why wouldn't you have drove them? No. Yeah, all that stuff should be there. I just believe that what you're looking at more so is it's the McAlberts did the dirty work. The police who they knew covered it up for them. But the planting of the evidence, in my opinion, came from Higgins, Matt McCabe, and Brian Albert. I'm of the opinion that Nicole and Jennifer McCabe did not find out until that morning in that kitchen of what the fuck happened. And then they had to, and I don't even know if they knew to the extent of the whole like Google searching and stuff like that. Jennifer McCabe didn't know that. She had no idea what was on her phone. And then her husband went through and deleted all that shit. That's why I didn't delete anything. She's not lying. Matt did. I didn't delete that. I didn't Google that. I didn't do that. She's up there. And how you get him with the 1-2 is you let that bitch testify like that. And you say, how many times did you give your phone to your husband, Jen, that day? Yes, Matt. Matt. It was you that was playing around on Jen's phone that night, right? Because then you're going to show, hey, Matt, that's why you asked Tully to see the video, right? When you went and saw him? You said you wanted to see the video. Why did you want to see that video? Here. I called all of this before I even knew that this existed. On May 10, 2024, Jennifer and Matthew McCabe arrived in the office of the Norfolk District Attorney's Office. Jennifer was provided a copy of her grand jury testimony regarding the Commonwealth vs. Karen Reed. Matthew was provided a copy of his testimony. They read the transcripts in a conference room and returned the documents. Jennifer requested to listen to her 911 call to Canton Police. I played the audio file. Jennifer and Matthew requested to watch the Canton Police cruiser camera video that depicts them both on the morning of January 29th, 2022. That depicts them both. I played the portion of the cruiser camera that depicts the McCabes on that date. You know what's interesting to me is how the fuck did Tully should have been like, wait, you're on the camera? So what Alan Jackson needs to ask Tully is, what portion, so you weren't surprised when Matt McCabe wanted to see that because did you think he was there that early? What portion, what camera did you use? Whose camera? Was it Sheriff's? Was it Goods? Whose dash cam did you use? Lana, did you lose your money in there? No, I lost my earpiece in there. And then I asked Jennifer why her cell phone would have been in the area of the residence of Michael Lang on January 30th. Jennifer stated that she was with Carrie Roberts, who was picking up her daughter at the residence. Thought she was dropping her off. I don't fucking know. Jennifer stated she did not speak with Michael Wank while at the residence. These motherfuckers cannot change their testimony from whatever they testified to in trial 1. You know, originally the defense wanted the ring camera all the way to February 3rd. And she's like, you have to amend that to January 29th, 2022. Okay. And that's what she allowed. And once you change that date, then yeah, you're going to get all that. Written confirmation from law enforcement to whether the digital timestamps on photographs taken in connection with this case are accurate and correct, including but not limited to this camera, then these two. In the event that the date and time of any of the photographs taken in connection with this case are incorrect, please immediately provide written confirmation as to the calibration of those devices, such as an accurate time can be obtained and or calculated. Identification of the unnamed female witness described as one of the Alberts Jr.'s girlfriends who was present. This is crazy. That was Sarah Livingston. Let me show you another one. Remember when they tried to get everybody's phone records and that was heavily denied? Affidavit of Alan Jackson. This is look at how many we've been through. 65. This was only motion 65. April 12th, 2023. Attached here as Exhibit A are photographs which clearly establish a long-standing, close, familiar relationship between the governmental's seminal witnesses in this case, i.e. the McAlberts, and the lead investigator, detective responsible for the investigating this case, Stuart Proctor. Take a look at okay. Again, this is me just trying to figure out a way for them to get this cell material. The Great Key Progress Report memorializing the forensic image of Jennifer McCabe's iPhone 11 is attached here as Exhibit L and establishes that unbeknownst to the defense, Trooper Keefe, this is not O'Keefe, forensically imaged Jennifer McCabe's iPhone 11 on February 2nd, 2022, mere days after the incident in question. No police reports reference the fact that Ms. McCabe's iPhone 11 was forensically imaged on February 2nd, 2022. However, computer forensic expert Richard Green's subsequent analysis of the same forensic image makes clear that law enforcement has had significant exculpatory information in its possession since February 2nd, 2022, which includes evidence that Jennifer McCabe deleted a search for the phrase "house lawn to die in the cold" at 2:27 a.m. Okay, I think they need to resubmit this, and they need to show that it was Matt McCabe, and show how the watch and the phone are separated. Goes upstairs. The phone does not. The phone does not turn off, as testified to at the first trial. Okay. And I think this is a chance that you can get this fucking data, that you'd be able to get Matt's shit. We have reason to believe that if he did that on her phone, because at first he could have been like, oh, let me go use mine. Oh shit, I shouldn't do this on mine, and then use hers. You're going to get some interesting fucking shit if you get Matt McCabe's phone. At least it's called detail records, which are still available. Also, why aren't we go and see if you can get the iCloud? Be so specific to this shit being saved in the cloud. Because that phone's long gone, but the CDRs are not long gone, which is your call detail records, which shows every incoming and outgoing phone call. So you do not need the phone to do that. Significantly, the existence of this forensic image, and I would fucking use Jennifer's statements to your advantage. Say Miss McCabe under sworn oath here said that she didn't make these. But the only other person she was with in bed was Matt, who had access to it. Fucking use her shit against her. Instead, Trooper Guerrero conducted his own forensic analysis of the image and prepared. So let's see. Significantly, the existence of this forensic image was not disclosed to the defense and was not produced to the defense in discovery until more than a year later. Instead, Trooper Guerrero conducted his own forensic analysis of the image and prepared an Apple iOS full file system Celebrate extraction report. On May 31st, 2022, at Trooper Proctor's direction, although the complete forensic image of Jennifer McCabe's cell phone was withheld from the defense, Trooper Guerrero's full file system extraction report was produced to the defense in discovery on August 12, 2022. I have personally conducted a complete review of Trooper Guerrero's May 31st, 2022 full file system Celebrate extraction report of Jennifer McCabe's iPhone 11, which purported to capture data from January 29, 2022. Notably, this report does not include any reference to the incriminating search made by Jennifer McCabe at 2:27 a.m. on January 29, 2022. An excerpt of Trooper Guerrero's May 31st, 2022 extraction report, which includes a summary of the extraction information, the device information, and a record of detailed calls, which were recovered in the Celebrate analysis of Jennifer McCabe's cell phone, is attached here as Exhibit M. A complete copy of this report can be filed under order of impoundment at the court's request. A true and correct copy of Sergeant Yuri Buchanan's February 23rd, 2022 report memorializing his and Trooper Proctor's pre-scheduled interview with Nicole Albert on February 3rd, 2022 at her residence located at 34 Fairview Road is attached here too as Exhibit N. According to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Office of Chief Medical Examiner of Death, Trooper Yuri Buchanan called the OCME at 10:41 a.m., stating the case is now being treated as suspicious due to a domestic situation that happened after D left the bar. There is a possibility D was struck in the face with a cocktail glass. Based on my review of the discovery in this case, I am informed and believe that none of the law enforcement officers who responded to 34 Fairview in the early morning hours of January 29, 2022 observed Brian and Nicole Albert leave their residence. I am further informed and believe that law enforcement never conducted a search of the Alberts' residence and or fenced-in backyard to determine whether there was any evidence that an altercation had occurred between O'Keefe and or any of the partygoers. The Commonwealth has produced 2 separate Canton Police Department incident reports concerning the events and transcript of what transpired on January 29th. A true and correct copy of the original report, which was produced to the defense at Miss Reed's arraignment on February 2nd, 2022 is attached here too. A true copy of the altered report, which was produced to the defense on October 25th, 2022 is attached here too. The only thing that's altered, remember, in this is that picture. A true and correct copy of Judge Krupp's September 23rd, 2022 orders to preserve electronic evidence is attached here too. A true and correct copy of Tim Albert's October 16, 2022 Facebook post threatening to ruin anyone who crosses his family is attached. Like, see, like that shit just doesn't need to be in there. Attached here is exhibit photographs taken from the morning depicting the snowfall around O'Keefe's body was discovered by Miss Reed. The first photograph is a screenshot from the video surveillance system at Town Library. The second photograph is one of the first crime scene photos taken by Sergeant Good at the Albert residence at 7:42. That's how I figured that out. There were no heavy snow falling when the woman arrived at 34 Fairview that morning. The requested records are evidentiary and relevant. Miss Reed's defense is predicated in no small part on a third-party culpability defense. So anybody out there saying that like this third-party bullshit, this was fucking there like day one, man. As explained in the attached affidavit of Rick Green, the defense has uncovered significant and reliable evidence that not only exculpates Ms. Reed, but that inculpate Jennifer McCabe and Brian Albert. See, why is it and Brian Albert? Why wouldn't, that's where I want to know where the and Brian Albert comes from. Why wouldn't it be and Higgins or and, you know, so okay, Brian Albert. Because let's be real, you guys. Jennifer McCabe didn't take out fucking John O'Keefe, right? And so I know it would have to come across anybody's brain that people could have used Jen McCabe's phone to do that Google search, and who could it have been at that time? Or fucking husband. That's who. As explained in the attached affidavit of Rick Green, the defense has uncovered significant and reliable evidence. Indeed, previously withheld evidence established that government's seminal witnesses Jennifer McCabe Googled house lawn to die in the cold at 2:27 a.m. But how would that have anything to do with Brian Albert? You know what I mean? So she Googles that on this hours before O'Keefe's body was supposedly discovered in the snow on her brother-in-law Brian Albert's front lawn. So the defense is basically saying, well, that's where he was found, and she's Googling it so she knows that he's on his lawn. Versus that he could be somewhere else in the cold. Moreover, the only reasonable interpretation of the 80 steps and 3 flights of steps, this was a stairs, recorded by Apple Health on O'Keefe's cell phone, clearly suggests that O'Keefe did, in fact, make it inside the Albert residence that night. And I'm telling you, in order to get those 3 flights, you have to go, like, going down does not register. So you would have to go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. 3. You have to come up 3 times. How that's proven is by looking at Jennifer McCabe's bullshit with hers. Like when she goes up the stairs with her watch on to go to her sister's, when she's at her sister's house, and when she goes up the stairs at home, when she gets home at 2:13 in the morning, when she goes up at her sister's, it registers a flight of stairs. When she comes down, it does not register a flight of stairs. This reliable data-driven information undeniably suggests that Jennifer McCabe and Brian Albert are the third parties responsible for O'Keefe's death, and that additional like, you guys, wait, what? They just didn't do their homework enough right there. Like, I wanted to go back and look at this one more time, like with the fine, like, I'm sorry, but they messed up in this motion. But they can resubmit it. This reliable, data-driven information undeniably suggests that Jennifer McCabe and Brian Albert are the third parties responsible for O'Keefe's death. I disagree that information says that. I agree that Jennifer McCabe's phone suggests that they knew that John O'Keefe was out in the cold. Okay? That's what that suggests. That John O'Keefe was out in the cold. And now, can you imagine if you were to say this in this type of a motion? When you compare Jennifer's health data with her watch compared to that of her phone, please see expert Richard Green's statements that show that the phone and the watch are being operated by two different people. Now we're talking. Getting Matt McCabe's data and phone, like ding, ding, ding. That's where all the tentacles from there are going to stretch out. This reliable data-driven information undeniably suggests Jennifer McCabe and Matt McCabe, or Brian Albert are the third parties responsible for O'Keefe's death, and that additional inculpatory information will be found in the cellular data requested. Based on this and other evidence, I have good faith belief that the location data and communication stored on their phones and in their corresponding carrier records during the relevant time period will unquestionably lead to relevant admissible evidence that will support Ms. Reed's third-party culpable defense. Why aren't we renewing this motion? Why aren't we going back, taking and typing up this motion and fixing it and submitting it? Because these motherfucking people aren't going to be called right away. There is time to still get it. This needs to be refiled. This needs to be refiled. The requested records are not otherwise procurable reasonably in advance of trial by exercise of due diligence. I am informed and believe, based on my conversations with defense, computer expert, forensic, that the only source from which the defense can obtain the requested information, namely Brian Albert's communications, Google searches, web browsing history, and data deleted by him during the relevant time period is by conducting a forensic analysis of his cell phone or cloud-based storage system. I am also informed and believe, based on my conversations with defense computer forensic expert Richard Green, that call details from cell phone carrier companies, including Verizon and AT&T, provide an independent source of call and messaging data, which cannot be deleted by a cell phone user for the period in question. Exactly. That's what CDRs are. Unless this court grants the instant request. So now we have a ruling that she is allowing third party culpability with Brian Albert and Brian Higgins. Okay. Why they didn't put Matt down is just fucking beyond me. But it should have been Matt McCabe, Brian, and Brian. Those should have been the three. And if you want to add Colin, sure, go the fuck ahead. But because of Jen McCabe, you put down Matt McCabe because he was the user of the phone. Okay, that's how this all links. And he started using Jen's phone because he knew that he was one of the last people with John. And if that came out that his shit would be subjected to, X, Y, and Z. The defense cannot effectively prepare for trial. Oh, sorry. Unless this court grants this instant request, the defense will be denied access to critical communications and the location data from the morning of O'Keefe's death, which will shed light on Mr. Albert's involvement in the murder of O'Keefe and support Ms. Reed's third-party culpable defense. Can somebody please contact Karen Reed and her team and say, you're putting in all these fucking, you want reconsideration. Get some reconsideration on this and change the language. Because I'm telling you, Matt McCabe made those motherfucking Google searches. 100. And you're going to use the fucking Matt McCabe being at the crime scene before he ever said he was there. He said that Jen called him, notified him that they found John, and he had to finish getting ready in bed, getting out of bed and getting ready, because he hadn't finished getting ready yet, and then had to go on over there. He was called at 6:35. You cannot make it on camera by 6:38. Sorry. It's also in the Canton audit report that they have him there at 6:38. None of which can be possible unless he teleported, which we know he didn't, and he was actually there before 6:38. They just happened to see him there, and Lank says that he talked to him. I mean, it's just right here in front of our faces. Go get the fucking file this shit. You can get the CDRs, and you can get Higgins' CDRs. You got Higgins on the phone, right? You didn't have that before. So why aren't you asking the judge? She even makes a comment of it. She even says a comment in it. In she says the defense didn't even bring up and ask if third party could come in at the first trial. And when I saw that, and she can write that, she's right. They didn't. So Karen Reed needs to put in a motion. Again, you want to preserve your appeal, okay? Let's just put it to you this way. If they don't put in the motion, then it's ineffective assistance of counsel. So I don't know if they're giving her that out. Like, here, we won't do a couple things that you could go ahead and file this if need be. I don't know. But the defense cannot effectively prepare for trial without these records. and the failure to obtain this information may unreasonably delay trial. This process takes time. Furthermore, the defense expert analysis of Mr. Albert's cell phone will then need to be compared with records on file with Verizon and AT&T to determine whether Mr. Albert has taken steps to sanitize his own device, as was done by his sister-in-law in this case. Moreover, even after that process is complete, it is likely that the production of that information will identify additional witnesses that the defense will need to interview and reveal additional information that the defense will need to further investigate. Thus, unless the critical information necessary to Ms. Reed's third-party culpability defense is produced in advance of trial, it will unquestionably result in delays because the government's witness will unquestionably be asked about these issues. This request is not a fishing expedition. Well, you put the fact that the phone and the watch aren't moving at the same time. It's not a fishing expedition if you go and get mats. The defense has a good faith base or belief based on newly obtained reliable data-driven evidence that exculpatory evidence implicating Jennifer McCabe and Brian Albert in O'Keefe's murder will be found in the records requested based on the evidence set forth in detail. And I would rewrite all that and say, based on this, there's going to be evidence, because I'm sorry, but Jennifer McCabe, you think Jennifer McCabe and Brian Albert were the ones that were, no. You're going to be able to get mats. You're going to be able to get mats. You got to hit the first domino to then the second domino and then the third one. So I believe that you can do it like this. Go get Matt's CDRs and then, oh, wow, Matt's making all these phone calls. Why are you calling all these people? Oh, wait, you had a conversation with Brian Albert for fucking 5 minutes? Or wait, you were talking to Higgins at 3 o'clock in the morning? Because you and Higgins went back over there to put the body where it was? I mean, it's wild. (28) More, the defense has already uncovered significant evidence establishing that Jennifer McCabe and her family members have taken affirmative steps to delete and tamper with evidence that was provided to law enforcement and misrepresent what occurred on the night in question in an attempt to interfere with the investigation into O'Keefe's death. What are those things? As such, the defense needs access to the only physical evidence from the night in question, which will shed light on what, so they're calling this physical evidence. Remember when in the motion she says, like with Sally Port and shit, like that's not, you didn't ask for that properly. And I mean, this motion shows that you're saying that it's physical. It will shed light on what transpired outside of Miss Reed's presence on January 29, 2022, and during law enforcement's investigation in the days that followed. The incident request is narrow and targeted to Brian Albert's communications, web results, and search history, and location information associated with Brian Albert. And this is why I don't think he wanted to give his stuff up. I believe that Brian Albert left with Chloe because he was called and notified. So Brian Albert left, but it wasn't Jen that called Brian Albert. Who called Brian Albert to notify that, hey, they're on their way? Who the fuck could possibly do that? Ding, 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 Matt McCabe. And that's why the sister had to give Jen, he's not here. He took Chloe, you know, and that's why she called back. Then she got the number. I mean, Which were obtained in police reports. Jennifer McCabe's call history over a 9-day period between January 28th, the date Brian Albert met O'Keefe at the Waterfall Bar, and February 5th, 2022, the day the substantive investigation into misread and recovery of evidence was completed. The defense clearly has good faith belief that exculpatory evidence supporting the third-party culpability defense will be found in Mr. Albert's cell records from the night in question and will reveal Mr. Albert's communications with his family members and his contacts with law enforcement in the days that followed in an effort to interfere with this investigation. The defense has a good faith belief that Mr. Albert has already taken affirmative steps to destroy evidence, namely by getting rid of his canine German Shepherd, Chloe, and will take actions to similarly destroy any inculpatory evidence on his cell phone. Thus, the production of corresponding... So that's the first time everybody's heard of, like, oh my God, they got rid of the dog. Okay. But think about this from the court standpoint. Like, what the fuck? Him getting rid of his dog has what to do with what? As a judge, you don't... This is the first time you're hearing about this, right? Now think about what I'm trying to say, which is somebody else other than Jennifer McCabe is using her phone, and it's her husband. And so why would he take her phone to Google that shit? He knows of it. He knows that John is outside in the cold. And he's going around trying to use Jen's phone because he thinks that his phone, because he has knowledge and knows that he was with John O'Keefe, that there's a chance that his phone would be taken, but his wife she actually never saw him because he was in contact with the 3 dudes right outside the residence in between the cars in the driveway. They need to put this motion in. Since they're putting motions in about fucking experts and fucking deadlines don't matter, put this shit in. You just need to CDRs. Get their fucking call detail records. See who these fucking people were calling. See what time they were calling. See what, showing that they weren't, You have it with Matt McCabe. You can prove that based off of what he said and in the calls on Jennifer McCabe's cell phone contradict everything. And then you throw in the part with the steps and the Google searches, and now we're getting somewhere. And then his domino will lead to all those motherfucking dominoes. The defense clearly has a good faith belief that exculpatory evidence supporting her third-party culpability defense will be found in Mr. Albert's cell phone records from the night in question and will reveal Mr. Albert's communications with his family members. Thus, the production of corresponding information from Mr. Albert's independently maintained cell phone carrier records is absolutely necessary to ensure Mr. Albert does not try to manipulate, alter, or otherwise destroy the requested information. I am informed and believe that Ms. McCabe took significant steps to attempt to delete, manipulate, and alter the data on her cell phone before turning it over to law enforcement on February 2nd, 2022, in an attempt to improperly influence the investigation into O'Keefe's death. The instant request for Ms. McCabe's cell phone carrier information is narrow and targeted to her call detail records and subscriber information over a 6-day period spanning January 28th to February 2nd. As further explained in Richard Green's affidavit, the records that are independently maintained by Ms. McCabe's cell phone provider during this time period will reveal the existence of any additional communications that were deleted by Ms. McCabe that the defense expert Richard Green's forensic tools could not recover. Based on the foregoing, Our office respectfully requests that this court order the requested documents, records, and information from Brian Albert, Verizon, and AT&T, which are necessary in order for our office to be able to effectively defend Ms. Reed at trial. Exhibit A, showing Proctor and all this. Exhibit B, this is the April 7th report, 2022, Detective Lieutenant Brian Tully. Interview of Brian Albert at 12 Country Lane. On January 29, 2022, at approximately 6:04 a.m., the Canton Police Department received a 911 call for a male party, John O'Keefe, discovered unresponsive outside 34 Fairview. Canton Police Fire, EMS responded to the scene, dispatched. He was transferred to the hospital where he was determined to be deceased at the Waterfall Bar on Friday night, January 28th, and the homeowner of 34 Fairview is Brian Albert. Brian arrived at the McCabe's house on Saturday morning and agreed to speak with investigators. Now, think about this. Why would Brian Albert have to go to Jennifer McCabe's house, right? Because Brian Albert, I believe, was not at home that morning. So that's actually the first time that he spoke with law enforcement, and Canton motherfuckers were covering for him, in my opinion, because again, maybe he left and then came back, so he did, speak to Link at 9, but Brian Albert goes over there. This is the rest of that. Brian and his wife, Nicole, arrived at the Waterfall Bar at approximately 10 p.m. to meet some friends. You guys, none of that's accurate right there. Brian and his wife, Nicole, arrived at the Waterfall Bar at approximately 10 p.m. Nicole went there to have fucking dinner. Okay? So think about way back then, why did that lie have to change? Well, because we're going to leave out our kids. We don't want any of our kids in this. Brian only met John O'Keefe a few times and did not know Karen Reed. Brian stated, when John and Karen entered the bar, they appeared to be in good mood, did not observe any arguing amongst the two or with anyone else. While speaking with John at the bar, Brian stated he did not appear to be intoxicated and did not speak with Karen. When Brian and Nicole left the bar to go home, John and Karen were still inside. Brian stated he did not know John and Karen were coming to his house and were invited by Jennifer McCabe. That actually helps, this report helps Karen Reed with her, are we invited? Are you sure that they know anything? Brian stated he did not know, Brian stated that he would have welcomed them inside if they arrived, but did not know they were coming over. Brian stated he did not see a vehicle out front of his house, did not know John and Karen were outside, and did not hear any loud noises from the street. Michael Proctor. Exhibit C. Thank you so much. Let's see. Donna became a new member. Elijah became a new member. Thank you. This is April 6th. Sent on up to defendant Tully. Trooper Michael Proctor's interview of Jennifer McCabe at her own home. On January 29th. We all know all that. Now, and I met with Jennifer at Country Lane at 11:30 a.m. So then I took this, which we know that they like to lie on things, and looked at her records, like her phone records. Jennifer and her husband Matthew arrived at the Waterfall Bar in Canton 9. At the Waterfall Bar, they met a group of friends, did some drinks. At approximately 11, John and Karen entered the Waterfall Bar from C.F. McCarthy's bar. Jennifer and John had been friends for a long time and met Karen when the two started dating. John walked into the Waterfall Bar wearing a baseball hat, jeans, and sneakers. Jennifer observed Karen. Okay, I wanted to back up and show you guys this. This is why I believe that she made a point to say this about the hat and stuff and the sneakers. Like, just really where they're putting it in there. Because they had went ahead and planted already before they went over to 12 Country, the hat and the sneakers, or that other sneaker. So Jennifer observed, but nobody knew that Canton already took a couple pictures. Jennifer observed Karen walking in the bar holding a drinking glass with a vodka mixed drink inside. She left C.F. McCarthy's with it. Jennifer, how she left C.F. McCarthy's with it. How would you even know that? Like, that must have been a big topic of conversation. Jennifer stated there were no arguments amongst Karen and John or anyone else inside of the Waterfall Bar. Jennifer stated that John and Karen did not appear to be overly intoxicated when they arrived. As the band was cleaning up, Brian Albert invited everyone back to his house at 34 Fairview Road, Canton. Everyone. Brian doesn't say that. As everyone began to leave the Waterfall Bar, Jennifer observed John and Karen leave together. Say what, bitch? You were trying to get Karen alone. Thank you, Michelle. Woohoo, baby. Woohoo. As everyone began to leave the water ball, Jennifer observed John and Karen leave together. No, you left with Karen. And then Karen went back for her man. John texted Jennifer at approximately 12:14 a.m. asking, where to? Now, this is why I am dead set on the whole where to versus what's Brian's address. Okay? And that's why I believe that Karen and them were where they were in that area before he punches in then 34 Fairview. Because they were going to go somewhere else, like to go get something. Oh, here, just meet us over here. Oh, just because wouldn't you say, like, what do you mean where to? You just fucking talked to her in the parking lot. We see the cameras. Jennifer walks up to John in the parking lot. And now we know that she gets back out of the SUV based on her watch, and she re-walks over to them. Ridiculous. But that's fine. So where to? Jennifer responds to John's text with the address. No, but you called him first. Because that doesn't go. Jennifer spoke with John at 12:14 a.m. and provided him with the address. That did not go through at 12:14. The address did not go through. That went through at 12:18. At 12:18, John called Jennifer to inquire where exactly the house was on Fairview Road, hearsay. While at 34 Fairview Road, Jennifer observed a large black SUV on the street outside of the house and went to the front door. While at 34 Fairview Road, Jennifer observed a large black SUV on the street outside of the house and went to the front door. Do you understand that what she is saying is that she saw she saw Karen's SUV. Now think about what I'm trying to tell you guys. She saw Karen Reed's SUV pull up when she was still in the car, because remember what I told you? She had walked, the phone was on in Bluetooth in the car, okay? Then she goes and runs in, whether she had to pee, which makes sense to me, and say happy birthday probably to, Brian Jr. She left the phone on Bluetooth because it was still going. She gets out, she runs inside, says hi to pees really quick, comes out and gets back in her car, her SUV. And that's what the data shows. And then now here, look at this. Okay, I love catching these little nuggets. Jennifer saying that she sees the black SUV and then goes into the house. Wow, Lana, that's amazing, because that's what you're saying. So while at 34 Fairview Road, Jennifer observed a large black SUV on the street outside of the house and went to the front door. Do you guys see that? She was in the SUV, sees the large SUV, then sees the black SUV, gets out because it says, and then went to the front door. I mean, that's boom. The black SUV did not pull into the driveway, but parked on the street by the entrance of the driveway. Jennifer observed the black SUV parked out front and texted John, "Hello, pull up behind me," at 12:31 a.m. Now everybody thinks that that's Jen texting. I don't believe that that's Jen texting. Jennifer texted John again at 12:40 a.m. "Hello, where are you?" And then again at 12:45 a.m. "Hello." They don't write all the texts and calls down. When Jennifer sent the last text to John, she observed the black SUV drive away and assumed Karen and John went home. Now, think about this. The last, when she says to police, because she has somewhat of an idea of what these little fucks did, okay? But stuff was deleted. And so when she's saying, yeah, this last one that's right here, that's when I had seen, them drive off or whatever, not realizing that these other ones existed, these other texts that were deleted. So when Jennifer sent the last text to John, she observed the black SUV driving away and assumed Karen and John went home. Jennifer stated John did not reply to any of her text messages, but you didn't talk about that 12:29 call. Jennifer stated she first observed the vehicle parked on the street by the driveway facing in the direction towards Chapman Street. Jennifer then observed the vehicle travel along the road toward the left side of the property in the area where John was discovered in the morning. Jennifer and her husband left the residence at approximately 1:30 a.m. Yeah, more like 1:47. You got home at 2:12. At approximately 4:53 a.m. on January 29th, Jennifer received a call from John's niece, Kaylee. And now, mind you, the bitch doesn't move, but her phone moves before she moves. Jennifer received a call from John's niece. Karen was on the phone, hysterical, and looking for John. Karen told Jennifer that she went home alone last night and last saw John at the waterfall bar. Lies. Karen didn't say that. Jennifer had to correct Karen and told her they left the waterfall bar together and went to 34 Fairview Road. Jennifer told Karen to come to her house on Country Lane. See this? When she says in trial that she just kind of shows up, that's a lie. According to Proctor, Karen was come over. Karen arrived at Jennifer's house in her black Lexus SUV. Jennifer stated she drove Karen's car back to John's house where Carrie Roberts met them. What, bitch? Again, Carrie Roberts was at 12 Country Lane. Carrie Roberts did not meet. She went to Jen's house. Okay. So she actually met there and then followed them. While driving back to John's house, and now she said, so this is interesting because it would have just been Jen and Karen, not Carrie. While she doesn't know if Carrie's going to play along. While driving back to John's house, Karen stated to Jennifer, "Could I have hit him?" Did I hit him? Karen also told Jennifer about a broken taillight on her black SUV. Again, very curious, very interesting. Not when anybody else is in the car, okay? Just those two. Once Karen, Jennifer, and Carrie arrived at John's house, they looked at the broken taillight. No, they fucking didn't. Jennifer stated she observed a broken, cracked right taillight to Karen's SUV. Lies. Lies. Now, who would tell her to say that? Matt, the motherfucker who took his fat fucking ass over there and busted that shit. Busted that shit. Now, I make a note here. No stairs are registered on the health app data for John McCabe. So listen to what she says she does. Jennifer and Karen got into Carrie's vehicle. Oh, they're not going to talk about how they went inside looking for him? So Jennifer and Karen got into Carrie's vehicle to go look for John. Karen was in the back seat and Jennifer sat in the front passenger seat. Jennifer described the weather at this time as snowing heavily. Jennifer stated the first place they went to look for John was 34 Fairview Road. They traveled down Chapman Street and took a right onto Fairview Road. Just prior to the front yard at 34 Fairview is a group of trees on the left side of the road. Immediately passing the group of trees, Karen says, "I see him." Jennifer stated with the heavy snow, her and Carrie could not see John and did not know what Karen was talking about. The three exited the vehicle. Carrie began wiping snow off of John. Jennifer called 911 and Karen laid on top of him for warmth and stated, "Oh my God, did I hit him?" John was discovered on the left side of the property, the area where Karen's SUV was last seen earlier that night, with approximately 6 inches of snow covering him. Jennifer stated Karen began mouth to mouth, and when she discovered John's blood on her face, she stated, "Oh my God, do I have my period?" What the fuck? Dude, what the fuck? Oh my God, do I have my period? I mean, just the fucking, how do you even throw that in there? Ridiculous. Oh my God. Oh my God. Using a cell phone application called Life 360, Jennifer was able to provide the following times. 5:39 a.m., Karen arrived at the McCabe's. How could Life 360, tell you when Karen arrived? So I noted it and I said, oh, fucking dumbasses. But I said, okay, 5:39 a.m., where is that when it falls with dumb bitches data? That's when they left. 5:32 a.m. is when she goes upstairs from being downstairs, and she has to run upstairs. Karen was there by 5:32. Oh my God, I got to go upstairs. Then she comes back downstairs. But to say that 5:39 a.m. Karen arrived at McCabe's residence, 5:46 a.m. Jennifer, Karen, and Carrie arrive at John O'Keefe's house. Let me put it to you this way. You want to use this? Remember this whole thing that Matt's like, oh my God, Karen arrives and she's just screaming and yelling outside. Remember that? Well, guess what? Do the math on how long it takes to get at 5:39 to leave. If she would have arrived at 5:39 and is acting like a fool outside and comes up to the door and screaming and shit like that, go ahead and see, pump it in there. You would never arrive at John's place by 5:46. Period. So she's using her Life 360 app because it's with her phone. So she's able to look at her phone to see. So yeah, I do agree with the fact that they left at that time, but that's not when she arrived. She wasn't just waiting for her to fucking go. 5:46, Jennifer, Karen, and Carrie arrived at John. 5:53 a.m., the three leave John's. And so during this time I looked, to when they arrived at 5:46, and there's no flight of stairs. So she didn't go upstairs to see Kaylee in Kaylee's room and all that shit, which she fucking testifies to. She doesn't go up a flight of stairs. Neither, her watch doesn't register it. So you need to call her out on that shit too. Jennifer, Karen, and Carrie arrive at John O'Keefe's 5:30. Okay, and then three of them leave, and they get at 6:04. They discover John outside. That's it. Next. This is interview of Matt McCabe. Did anyone else hear Carrie Roberts say he lived on Meadows? I don't know. She said he lived on Meadows. He lives on Meadows. I think she said he lives on Meadows. I don't think that she used past tense. It really sounded like she used past tense. Live, not lives. Was that just me, or did she actually say that? I don't know. So Maddie, let's see how Maddie. Okay. So Maddie says, Matthew has known John for approximately 8 years and met Karen Reed a handful of times. He did not know of any medical issues John may have had. Why was he asked about John's medical issues? Really strange, right? Definitely strange. Matthew and his wife, Jennifer, arrived at the Waterfall Bar at approximately 9. Matthew said they went to the bar to have some drinks and food with friends. Matthew stated John and Karen entered the Waterfall Bar by themselves. John was wearing a baseball hat with a curved visor. Again, it's so... Ooh. Maddie remembers that hat so well because it was in his fucking car and he had to throw it out there. This is Proctor's report from the 29th when they were at the house. Matthew did not observe any arguing amongst John and Karen or with anyone else inside the bar. Matthew stated Karen was consuming a clear liquid he believed to be vodka. As the night was winding down, Matthew went over to speak with the band. As everyone in the bar was leaving, Matthew stated John and Karen left before him, and the only people left inside the bar were the 4 band members and himself. Matthew left and got into his vehicle, where Jennifer was waiting for him. Like Lana said, yep, she was waiting for him. She was. And heard her call John to invite him to Brian's. When he gets into the car, she gets out of the vehicle and begins to start walking again. Just so we're clear. They have a conversation outside of that bar. Then yes, he's saying Jennifer was waiting for him and heard her call John to invite him to Brian's. While at 34 Fairview Road, Matthew said he observed a big, dark SUV parked to the right of the house. This is what fucks him on the stand. To the right of the house. Okay? Like when looking at it. Exactly. To the right of the driveway. You fat fuck. Matthew said he was making these observations from the front door. You're a liar. He was making these observations from the SUV, but he didn't want to say that. And so ask yourselves, why can he not say that he made those observations from the SUV? You're trying to hide not the house and that you were in the house. You're trying to hide that you were in your SUV when you made those observations. Just like Jennifer in her statement when she said that I saw the black SUV and then I walked up to the door. How does nobody get that? She sees the vehicle and then she walks up to the door. That means she saw it for the first time when she was where? In the SUV. Okay. And then she walks up to the door. It's in the report. She was not inside, and neither was he. They were not inside the first time they saw that SUV. Okay. Also, if she was all the way to the right side of the driveway, how did he observe that from the front door? That'd be like way over here. Fucking lying, cocksucker. Matthew stated he looked out the front window and observed the same big dark SUV had moved to the other side of the property, approximately 15 to 20 feet. Matthew was not sure how long the vehicle was outside for, but did not hear any loud noises or screaming from inside. Matthew stated both times he observed the vehicle on the street, the headlights were facing towards Chapman. Matthew stated he observed tire tracks in the snow on the street in front of the house. Matthew described the pattern as a wave or a V shape. Matthew stated the tire tracks went from the curb in front of 34 Fairview, so and did like to turn like this. And that's consistent with nothing that Karen did. So, but he said the tire tracks went from the curb towards the neighbors across the street and then back toward the curb. The pattern of the tracks were consistent with making a 3-point turn. Matthew stated he did not see these tracks prior to the big black SUV arriving outside of the house. How dumb is that? That's it. That's your report. The fuck? That's it. That's it. No report about like when they left, they didn't see a body. You know what I mean? Like, unfucking believable. Where is there any talks about a body? Detective Lieutenant, okay, this is, here we go, Kathleen Prince. Now, this was, On February 1st, 2022, I, along with Trooper Connor Keefe, went to 12 Country Lane. So this was not the same day, a couple days later, to speak to Jennifer McCabe concerning the investigation into the death of John O'Keefe on January 29, 2022. The following is a summary of what Ms. McCabe told us. Ms. McCabe stated that on Friday, she and her husband went to the Waterfall Bar. Jen said that John and Karen came into the Waterfall Bar around 11. Jen said that she knows John because her daughter and John, blah, blah, blah. She said that she had come to know Karen through John because the 2 day. Jen said that John had encouraged Jen and Karen to become friendly because Jen has multiple sclerosis and Karen had also been diagnosed with MS. What? Hey, you two should become friends because you guys have MS. I'm sorry. Ridiculous. John and Karen had been at CF McCarthy's before they came into the Waterfall Bar. Jen noticed that Karen had a mixed drink in her clear glass in her hand that she brought over. At the end of the evening, Jen said that she and her husband were planning to go to her sister's house because it was her nephew Brian Albert's birthday. Jen said that she asked Karen and John if they wanted to come along, and they said that they would. The Alberts lived at 34 Fairview Road. Jen said that John had texted her at 12:14 a.m. to get the address. Jen said that she spoke with John on the phone to explain where the house is. She said that she remembers providing him with directions, specifically telling him to drive past Bella's house on the right. You're fucking so full of shit. Jen said that John would know where Bella lives, as she's a friend of Kaylee's. So a nice, this is new, right? And then Jen said that while she was at the house, someone said that there was a car outside. Jen said that while she was at the house, someone said there was a car outside. No, bitch. No, bitch. This is where you fuck the dog and you lie. Okay? Because you said right here that, and they really need to hone in on this. Well, at 34 Fairview Road, Jennifer observed a large black SUV on the street outside of the house and went to the front door. She saw the fucking SUV. She was in her SUV, sitting there with her, waiting. So, and then saw the black SUV and then went to the front door to then go in. Ding, ding, ding. They need to use this. So she's saying here the first time that she said, and on this, she's saying, I was already in the house and someone said that there was a car outside. Jen looked out the front door of the house and saw the car. Now, I can prove this is not true because Jen wasn't sitting down at that table to just be able to look out, because Jen doesn't take any steps, remember, from 12:35 to, or I'm sorry, from 12:25 to 12:35, Jen doesn't take a single step. So when she's saying she's getting up and walking around and going and looking at the door and shit like that, the bitch don't move from 12:25 to 12:35, which is indicative of actually still being in a vehicle. Now, she assumed it was John and Karen. She said that she did not notice what kind of car it was. Jen said that she is not good at identifying cars and was not able to provide a description of the car. She noticed that the vehicle was facing in the opposite direction of how it would have been if they had followed the directions provided earlier. Jen then texted John at 12:21 a.m. Here. She texted John again at 12:31. and told him to pull behind her vehicle. Because remember, there was a 12:29 call that she's leaving out. She looked out the window a little while later and noticed that the car was further away from the house, closer to the neighbor. At 12:40 a.m., she texted again and said, "Hello, where are you?" There was no response from John. Jen said that her phone shows a call from her phone to John around that time, but she thinks that she dialed him by accident when she was putting her phone in and out of her pants pocket. Not her phone sitting on the floor being charged in a house. The next time that she looked out the window, the car was gone. She did not think anything of it and thought that they had just decided not to come in. Jen said that she and her husband were at the house from around 11:45 a.m. to about 1:30 a.m. She means to put p.m., by the way. Her phone says everything different. Like when you, this is why I believe that Jen didn't know anything, because then when Matt and them come back, she's like, "Where's John?" "Oh, I don't know. He went with somebody else. He didn't come back with us." What are you talking about? I don't know. And that's why she starts blowing him up, like, because it didn't make sense. I'm telling you, Jen didn't know that type of shit yet. And these pulling behind me and here, yeah. Nope. The following morning, Jen got a call from Kaylee, John's niece. Kaylee said, "Hi, Jen. Karen needs to talk to you." "Hi, Jen. Karen needs to talk to you." The fuck? Mind you, the data shows otherwise, because the bitch didn't move and the phone starts moving. It's a mess. "Hi, Jen needs to talk to you." Karen got on the phone and was yelling. John never came home. Karen told Jen that she left him at the waterfall. Jen thought that perhaps he was with a friend. Jen said that she checked with Julie Albert to see what? Jen said that she checked with Julie Albert to see if he had gone to their house. You know why this part has to come in? Because the second go round, he's like, fuck, Matt has to tell his wifey poo that I called Julie motherfucking Albert at 4:55. So Jen has to cover for this now and say that, because that's in the phone records. Jen said that she checked with Julie Albert to see if he had gone to their house. Jen explained to Karen that she did not leave him at the waterfall bar because they were outside. They were outside Jen McCabe's sister's house after the waterfall bar. Karen then told Jen that when she got home, John was not with her. Jen began to think of other friends that John might have ended up going to, such as Tommy, but he was not there earlier. Karen was telling Jen that Karen, had not planned to stay at John's house that night, and that John would not have stayed out all night, leaving Kaylee home alone overnight. This is where, in case they were to get caught again with the Ring camera, why they put this in here is, yeah, we stopped there to make sure that Karen was there. Well, why would you have done that? We just wanted to make sure, because they had swung by, then they didn't come in, and then we passed them on the way driving them home, and that they were there, and it was okay. All's good. They're there. We can just go to bed. They had all these plans set up just in case things came out. But to sit here and say that, what? Jen was not. At some point, while they were talking on the phone, Karen got into her car and started driving. They were not on the phone. This is a lie. Karen started driving at 5:07, 5:08. Okay? She was on the phone with her for 2 minutes and 40 seconds. The fucking audacity of this bitch. Jen said that Karen was hysterical screaming. Karen drove to Jen's house. Jen said that when Karen showed up at her house around 5:30 in the morning, exactly, see, 5:30 a.m., not at 5:38 a.m., see? And that's when she books it. She then has to run the fuck upstairs, okay? Because I believe that she was in the same clothes. She has to then throw on fucking pajamas, make it seem like she went to fucking bed. All right? Because that's why at 5:32, the phone registers going up a flight upstairs with the fucking, with the watch. And from 5:26, from 5:01 to 5:26, Jen McCabe doesn't move a muscle. Then Jen has to fucking literally run because she's like, she just showed up, right? But wait, I thought that you invited her over. I thought you told her to come there. Like, it's all just fucking lies. She went outside and started to drive Karen's car to John's house. She said that they got to John's house around 5:45 a.m. Shortly after Carrie arrived. What? What's going on? What the fuck is she talking about? Carrie went to Jen's house. They can't keep their shit straight. They looked in John's house to make sure he was not there. The three decided to all get into one vehicle to look for him. They took Carrie's car. Jen said that Carrie was saying things like, could I have hit him? Look at the crack in my taillight. There is a crack in it. This is all added. Jen said that she did notice damage to the taillight. Jen said that Karen was so hysterical and was saying so many things that Jen did not think that Karen actually hit him. Karen was also saying things about him possibly being with old girlfriends. Jen said that they probably got on the road around 5:53 a.m., probably just 5:53 a.m., to go look for John. Carrie was driving, Karen was in the back, and Jen was in the passenger seat. They pulled down to Fairview from Chapman. Jen said that they were approaching the 34 Fairview house. Karen said, pull the fucking car over. There he is. That's not what she said at first. There he fucking is. Jen said that she did not notice him, but Karen did. Carrie stopped in the middle of the road, and Karen jumped out of the car and went to him. Jen said that John was in the area of where she had last seen the vehicle the night prior. Jen said that he was on the lawn. There was a coating of about 6 inches of snow on him. Karen threw herself on top of him. He was lying on his back, and his phone was on the ground underneath him. You fucking lying bitch. He wasn't lying on the back. Remember, he was face down, and you had to turn him over. Remember? She says that in the 911 call that they had to turn him over. She is so full of fucking shit, man. Jen said that she called 911. They attempted CPR, and then the ambulance and police arrived. Jen said that Karen was very hysterical. She was asking people if she had hit him. Karen was told to sit in a car. This is where it gets good. Jen went over to Karen when she was in the car. Bitch, you mean you went over to her? You got in that motherfucker. Because remember, from 6:17 and 50 seconds to 6:23, or to 6:26, I'm sorry. During this period, Jen doesn't move. No movement for Jen. Because she goes in the cop car with her. Jen went over to Karen when she was in the car. Jen observed Karen to have blood on her hands and face. Karen was holding her hands up and saying, I have my period. You guys, this is absolute fuck shit. Karen, I have my period. Jen said that she told Karen that was not her blood. That it was John's blood from them doing CPR. Jen also stated that while her and Karen were in the back of the car, there you go, Karen was yelling and screaming one moment and then completely calm the next. Jen said they prayed the Our Father. Oh my God. We prayed the Our Father together. Karen then immediately yelled at Jen two times to Google. Our Father who art in heaven. God damn it! Google, I want to die in the cold. Dude, you can't make this up. You can't make this up. Oh my God, what? Told you guys while sitting in this car, she says, see how this comes later? Because Jen has to add this to the story to cover for her fucking man. You understand? Because she learns it after the fact. That's why it's not in the first story with Proctor. Okay? She learns this shit after the fact about the, God damn it, you did what? You were Googling this shit? Okay? So then she has to cover for her motherfucking man. And so here she tells the homie G. Karen then immediately yelled at Jen 2 times to Google, how long do you have to be left outside to die from hypothermia? And the same person that made the typing at 6:22 is the same person that made the earlier one because they wrote it the same fucking way. Jen was unsure if she, Karen, was brought from the scene by ambulance to the hospital. 8 blank. Jen was asked about what Karen and John were like when they were at the water club. These people don't even know the names of the bars. She said that she did not notice them fighting. She has known them to be together as a couple for about 2 years. And to her knowledge, they love each other. She said that she did not think that there were any issues between them. Jen said that the only thing that she can think of is that once Karen made a comment that if there were not any kids, they would not have anything to fight over. Wow. God, she was trying to separate those kids from liking her. Jen told Karen that was very normal. Jen was asked about their level of intoxication, and she said that they were both drinking but did not appear to be drunk. Thanks so much, Jen, for all of your help figuring this all out. Beautiful job. Oh, I used this wristband to figure out some stuff back in the day. Now, Ryan Nagel. February 7th, Ryan Nagel. The fuck? Additionally, a male party was identified as being in the area the night prior and possibly could have witnessed the victims arriving in the area of 34 Fairview. So this is Yuri talking to Ryan Nagel. Okay. Ryan told us that Richie stopped the F-150 directly in front of the driveway belonging to 34 Fairview. That's exactly where Karen stopped at first. And remembers the black SUV stopping along the right-hand curb towards the left side of the property as you look at the home from the street. When asked, Ryan stated he did not observe any erratic operations by the SUV as it turned from the Cedar Crest onto Fairview at any point. Ryan went on to say that their F-150 remained in front of the home for a period of time that was no longer than 5 minutes, at which time his sister Julie came out of the home and asked if the three of them would like to come inside. Do you guys want to come party? Woo! Remember, clearly there's some type of mistakes, or he had to text Julie and say, like, I'm leaving. So problematic that, like, she just ran right out there, my fucking ass. But also no mention of a Jeep. Higgins' Jeep is just this black SUV. Ryan refused the invite, and Julie said that she wanted to stay a while longer and would most likely spend the night at 34 Fairview. And so the big question here is, why didn't you spend the night, right? Well, upon conclusion of their conversation, Julie retreated back into the home, and Ryan noticed that the SUV pulled up a few feet to the right edge of the property line between 34 and the neighboring property where the flagpole was located, along with some bushes. Ryan said the SUV's driver did not appear to place the car into park as the rear brake lights were illuminating, to include the third top center light at the initial positioning and after it had pulled up. Trooper Proctor asked Little Ryby here if at any point he heard screaming, yelling, or any noise coming from that black SUV while he was on Fairview. No, didn't hear a damn thing. No, Ryan added that as Richie pulled away, at which time Ryan observed the Caucasian female operator stayed inside the vehicle holding the steering wheel at 10 and 2. Looking just straight ahead, Ryan told us that he did not see anyone else in the passenger compartment during his brief observations of the SUV as they drove by it. Ryan did not see the SUV leave and did not note any damage to the right or to the vehicle, as he remembered. When asked, Ryan said that it had just started snowing approximately a half an hour prior. While present in the area of Cedar Crest and Fairview, Ryan did not see any other vehicles operating besides the F-150 and the black SUV. Without having anything further to provide about the evening, Trooper Proctor and I concluded our interview. Nicholas, his report was on February 4th. On Saturday, January 29th, Trooper Michael Proctor and Sergeant Yuri McCabe of the Norfolk District Attorney's Office responded to an unattended death of John O'Keefe's at 34 Fairview Road in Canton. I thought they didn't go there. Though through his investigation, it was found that O'Keefe was a victim of a motor vehicle homicide. While on scene, Trooper Proctor secured O'Keefe's cell phone and brought it to the Norfolk District Attorney's Office for forensic analysis. How could it be such a, like, to this day, nobody has testified, and you need to ask every single person who takes that stand, did you turn over John O'Keefe's cell phone? Ridiculous. Through his investigation, it was found that O'Keefe was a victim of a murder. While on scene, Trooper Proctor secured O'Keefe's cell phone and brought it to the Norfolk District Attorney's Office for forensic analysis. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Progress report generated. One of the exhibits is the Zwillow, the house. One of the exhibits is the layout of the house. Commonwealth's Notice of Discovery. February 8th. Look at when they turn that over. What a bunch of cocksuckers. A year later, we get Jennifer's shit. iCloud backup, last backup date, 2/2 at 11:43 UTC time. Unlocked. This is Jen's. Ridiculous. Last hotspot activity, 124. Location services enabled, true. Automatic dates and times, true. Automatic time zone, true. Find my iPhone enabled. Nicole Albert. This was done on this was written on February 23rd, 2022. But on February 3rd, at approximately 5:20 p.m., Trooper Proctor and I traveled to 34 Fairview Road. So they talked to Brian on the day it happens. Then they go back over there on the 3rd for a pre-scheduled interview with Nicole Albert. This is a pre-scheduled interview. Their investigation. This is what she said. After being invited into the home of Nicole and her husband, Brian, Trooper Proctor and I formally introduced ourselves. Like, again, when somebody even has to say that, like they're saying that for a reason. We formally introduced ourselves because we don't know each other. And thank both of them for their time. Nicole began by saying that she does not know Karen and had never met her prior to the 28th of January. She had met John O'Keefe once or twice out in social settings. Nicole shared that she was aware that John had recently moved near her sister's home and only knew him as Kaylee's uncle. Nicole said that she met with her sister Julie, daughter Caitlin, daughter Tristan. You guys see this shit? Daughter Tristan and her boyfriend out at dinner at they purposely messed that up to be in reports that way. Caitlin's name is not in there. Their daughter Tristan and her boyfriend out at dinner approximately 7:30 p.m. at the Waterfall Bar. At approximately 9, Jen and Matt McCabe met Nicole and Julie at the bar, and then approximately 10 p.m. Brian came out after his return from New York. They leave out Brian Higgins. At approximately 11, Nicole remembered that John and Karen came into the bar and were positioned at the opposite end of the high table. And Nicole recalled John coming over once and asking if they wanted anything from the bar. Nicole stated that John was wearing jeans, sneakers, and a hat. At approximately midnight, Nicole stated that she left the Waterfall Bar and was met at her home by her sister Jen, brother-in-law Matt, and husband Brian. Nicole went on to say all the guests left her home an hour later at approximately 1 a.m. Dude, Higgins, where's any fucking love about Higgins? Wild. Caitlin Higgins, you like that? Caitlin Higgins. Because I'm over here already saying, like, no mention of Caitlin, no mention of Higgins. And this is really important when you want to go back and look. Now, look at the cars that we're seeing on the cameras passing by and through. And is it because they don't want to draw attention? It's wild. It's wild. At approximately 1, everybody left. Later on during the morning hours, Nicole said that she was still in bed when her sister Jen came into the room and shared with Nicole what had transpired outside and that John was found deceased. Nicole said that she was in her bed when her sister Jen came into the room and shared with Nicole. See how she doesn't say with Brian Albert? With Nicole, because Brian isn't there. Neither was Chloe. And that John was found deceased. John was found deceased. Okay, John was found deceased. This is the bitch that called that I think he's dead. He's deceased. On the edge of her property by the street in the snow, Nicole stated that she never left her home. Yeah, Nicole stated that she never left her home. Doesn't say anything about her husband. And by the time she came downstairs, Canton Fire Department must have transported both John and Karen from the scene. She came down the stairs, not like she came down the stairs. According to Nicole, there was no fights, arguments, or altercations of any time during the night between anyone present at Waterfall or her home. Nicole said that everything was fine, and she remembered John talking to her sister Jen at the bar. Nicole did not observe any inquiries on John while he was present at the bar. Nicole shared that her and Brian walked out of the Waterfall Bar prior to John and Karen, and the two were still at the bar that time. When asked about the utility box at the edge of her property near the flagpole where John was found, Nicole said that it had been open and slightly damaged for a long time prior to 22 January. Directing her attention to her home following the Waterfall Bar, Nicole said that she did not hear any arguments, noises coming from outside of her home, and that neither John nor Karen came into the home at any point. Nicole went on to say that she was not even aware that her sister Jen had even invited John and Karen to the house following the Waterfall Bar. Without having any additional information to share with Drew, Proctor, and me, we thanked Nicole for her time and concluded the interview. Oh, thank you. This is Good's original report. On 129, I was the patrol supervisor. At approximately 6:04, I received, look at, he doesn't even say how Carrie Roberts called him. Or does he say it down here a little bit? I don't know if I got the other. Okay. The call was then transferred to Canton Fire and Dispatch. And if I looked on a Gallagher link, shortly after hearing the seriousness of the call. Once on scene, the victim was already in the back of the ambulance, and CPR was in progress. I was met by McCabe, Roberts, and Reed. All parties will be referred to by their first names going forward. Jennifer introduced herself to me and explained that they found their friend, John, lying unresponsive on his back in the snow. Jennifer explained that they arrived at the address because it was the last place Karen, John's girlfriend, believed he would be. Wait, what the fuck? This is not true. Jennifer says the opposite. Jennifer says that, no, you came to our house. You guys came there. Jennifer stated that she had gotten a call from Karen around 4:53 a.m. inquiring about John's whereabouts. She told Karen she didn't know where he was. I asked Jennifer why she would think you would know where he was. Jennifer explained that a group of them had all been at the Waterfall Bar and Grill in Canton earlier in the night. At around 12 a.m., Jennifer and her husband left the bar heading to her brother-in-law Brian Albert's house at 34 Fairview Road. Jennifer stated Karen and John were at the bar together around 12:14 a.m. John texted Jennifer asking where they were going. Jennifer invited them to 34 Fairview Road. A short time later, Jennifer stated that she saw Karen and John pull up in their car and saw the passenger door open, but they never came in, and she saw the car drive off. Why are we using this? A short time later, she saw the passenger door open, but they never came in, and she saw the car drive off. Jennifer just thought they changed their mind and went home for the night. I walked over to Karen and asked her who she was and how she ended up here. I also placed Karen in the back of my marked cruiser to warm up. Karen was hysterical and continued yelling, "Is he dead?" I kept reassuring her that the Canton Fire were doing everything they can to save his life. I asked how John ended up there, and she stated, "I don't know," which is perfect. I don't know how he ended up there. I asked her if she drove here last night, and she stated, "I think so. Then I can't remember." At this point, I stopped asking questions because she was too upset and she was unable to keep her train of thought. Normal. At this time, he doesn't say anything about the whole asking to hold Google, okay? It's really, really important. Well, Karen was in the vehicle. You don't mention in your report that she asked Jen. Now, what you need to ask is, when you put Karen in your vehicle, did you see Matt McCabe walk up to the car? How long after did you see Matt McCabe? How long before this did you see him? At this time, Sergeant Lank arrived, which is 6:26 on scene, and I briefed him on what had transpired so far. I then spoke to Carrie, who stated that she was contacted by her friend Karen around 5 a.m., wondering if she knew where John was. Carrie stated she called a few hospitals and the Canton police to see if he had been transported at some point during the night. Then Carrie picked up Jennifer and Karen, and they began to search for John, ending up here at 34 Fairview. Canton Fire began to transport the victim to Good Samaritan and Karen, who was now sitting in Carrie's car. what? Canton Fire began to transport the victim to Good Samaritan, and Karen, who was now sitting in Carrie's car, began to act out, yelling and screaming as he did, and trying to get out of the car and walk around. At this time, I advised Carrie to take Karen home and that she was not needed anymore. Moments later, I was contacted by dispatch. Okay, just so you guys know, Mulaney says that he was the one that was contacted by dispatch. Mulvaney. And that's how it is in the audit. So it's interesting. Moments later, I was contacted by dispatch that Karen was making suicidal statements to her father over the phone. I made the decision to have Carrie bring Karen back to the scene and had her transported. Now, the audit says that Mr. Reed asked for this to happen. I mean, what the fuck? It says it right here. He made the decision. Good is putting it in there that he made that decision. Someone's lying. And it's interesting that Mr. Brennan wants to put Bill Reed on the goddamn stand. He doesn't have the balls to call him. Moments later, I contacted dispatch. I made the decision. Fuck that audit. To have Carrie bring back Karen. Detective Sergeant Link at this time contacted the homeowners at 34 Fairview Road and completed a supplemental report. See, contacted. One of those phone calls, did you call Brian Albert because he wasn't inside? That's what I believe. I spoke to Seraph and asked him what he observed arriving first on scene. Seraph said he saw a woman, Karen, attempting CPR on the victim in the snow. Seraph said that Karen had blood around her mouth, which he believed was from the victim's mouth and nose. Seraph explained seconds later, Canton Fire arrived on scene and took over. Look at this report. Fucking, what a fucking 2 sentences, 2 paragraphs. I went over to feel the victim. I saw 3 people on the ground waving at me. They said he was not breathing. They were performing CPR. I noticed Karen, the victim's girlfriend, had blood on her face and mouth. I went over to the victim and felt his skin, and it was cold to the touch. I asked if he was a drug user, and they said no, he is a Boston cop. I went to get the AED from the patrol vehicle, and at the same moment, the Canton Fire Department was arriving. Following that, Reed kept screaming, "Is he dead? Is he dead?" She was severely distraught and was not able to tell me what happened. I tried to console her and keep her out of the inclement weather. I had her sit in one of the cars. Sergeant Good arrived and started speaking to the parties that were there. That's his report. God, what a mess. What a freaking mess. Who's this guy? Michael Lang. At 6:08, I was contacted. Sergeant Good advised me that a male party had been found in the snow by the air. Sergeant Good said the party was involved, whose Boston police officer was in grave condition and Canton was on the scene. The conditions were okay. At approximately 6:24 a.m., I arrived at 34 Fairview. Sergeant Good, Officer Seraph, and Officer Mulaney had already spoken to multiple witnesses, and the victim was being transported or treated in the ambulance by Canton EMS. The ambulance left for the Good Samaritan Hospital. Shortly after I arrived, Sergeant Good was made me aware that the officers EMTs told him that the victim was bleeding from the nose and mouth. They also stated that he appeared to have swelling above one of his eyes. The first person I spoke with was Jennifer McCabe. She was able to provide us with a general timeline of events. Jennifer was at Waterfall Bar and Grill in Canton with her husband. Approximately at 11, they were accompanied by John O'Keefe, girlfriend. Approximately at 12, Jennifer, Matthew, Brian, and Nicole left the bar and went back to Albert's house at 34 Fairview Road. At approximately 12:14 a.m., O'Keefe texted Jennifer and asked where they were going. Jennifer responded that they were going to 34 Fairview Road. Moments later, a vehicle pulled up in front of the house, which Jennifer believed was O'Keefe's and his girlfriend Reed. She observed as the vehicle just sat out in front of the house for several minutes. The vehicle was facing uphill with the passenger side facing the house. She thought that the vehicle sat outside for at least 15 minutes. McCabe stated that neither party ever came to the door, and ultimately the vehicle drove away. She attempted to text O'Keefe, but never got a response. Approximately at 1:30 a.m., McCabe and her husband leave the house and give a ride home to Julie Nagel, who lives on Highland Street in Canton. Approximately 4:53 a.m., McCabe was contacted by Reed and Kaylee. They were distraught because O'Keefe never arrived home and was not answering his phone. McCabe and Reed attempted to call some of O'Keefe's close friends, including Carrie Roberts. Approximately 5 a.m., Roberts picked up McCabe. Approximately 5 a.m., Roberts picked up McCabe and Reed to go looking for O'Keefe. What the fuck? I mean, this is just so wrong. Approximately 6 a.m., Roberts, McCabe, and Reed locate Keefe in the yard. Roberts began to perform CPR. Approximately at 6:04, 911 was placed. Officers on scene were able to secure the scene as best they could as the weather conditions continued to be severe. State Police CPAC unit was contacted at 6:38. Trooper Proctor called back within a few minutes and was made aware of the situation. While on scene, all attempts to speak with Reed were unsuccessful. She was hysterical and difficult to control. The only statement that she was able to relate to Canton officers while on scene was that she did not remember ever being at 34 Fairview Road. Reed later made statements via telephone to her parents threatening suicide. Canton EMS ultimately responded back to the scene, and Reed was taken to the hospital under a Section 12 order. Yeah, what a shitty-ass report, man. Next, I went into 34 Fairview Road and spoke with the homeowners, Albert, Brian, Albert, Nicole. The fuck you did. Both parties from this point forward will be referred to as their first names. Brian said that he had seen the victim, spoke to him. He said that he did not know the party well, but knew that he was a friend of McCabe's sister-in-law. Brian and Nicole recalled that the victim had been welcome to come to their house, but he never arrived. So Brian and Nicole recalled that the victim had been welcomed to come to their house, but he never arrived. Because Nicole just told Proctor and fucking Buchanan that I did not know that they were coming. And so then this interview happens before the other interview. She fucking lying cunts. When asked about O'Keefe's demeanor or O'Keefe had any altercations with anyone earlier in the bar, Brian said he seemed to be fine at the bar and there were no issues whatsoever. Matthew, husband of Jennifer, also stated that he had observed the vehicle pull up. So here's Matt. Here's why the Canton, so they're going off a Canton police report, right? And this is why they say that Matt McCabe here was there at 6:38 based on Homeboy's report here. Also stated that he had observed the vehicle pull up front of the house, but never saw either party get out of the vehicle. Matthew also reiterated what Brian said. O'Keefe seemed to be fine at the bar and that there was really nobody else in the establishment other than their group. Next, I asked Brian and Nicole who else was at the house that night. Aside from the names already mentioned, the following people were present at some point during the time in question: Brian Jr., Caitlin Albert, Julie Nagel, and Brian Higgins, who was a friend of Brian Albert Sr. They advised me that their daughter, Caitlin, left the house around 12:15 when she was picked up by her boyfriend, Tristan Morris. No, bitch. No mention of Colin. No mention of Sarah. While still on scene, Lieutenant Gallagher, Sergeant Good, and I attempted to retrieve as much evidence as possible given the weather conditions. Lieutenant Gallagher was able to use a leaf blower to blow away the top layers of snow. We were able to observe a broken drinking glass and multiple patches of red, which appeared to be frozen blood drops. 6 samples of this substance was retrieved by using red solo plastic cups. The broken glass was retrieved and bagged into evidence. Both items were returned to the Canton Police Station and logged into evidence. At approximately 9 a.m., I was contacted at the Canton Station by McCabe. Exactly. Who from Canton at 8:38 called Jennifer McCabe, though? Somebody called Jen's phone at 8:38 a.m. from Canton. Who did that? She asked if it was possible if I could come back on over and to speak with her. Lieutenant Gallagher and myself, we often really arrived back at 34 Fairview within a few moments. McCabe told us that she had recalled something that she was not sure if we were aware of, but she said that when Reed was driving around with her and Robert looking for the victim, she had said something to the effect of, "I hope I didn't hit him." McCabe told us that she made these statements again at the scene when the victim was discovered. She thought that Reed may have made these statements in front of a police officer, but she was not sure. Crime scene photos. You worthless pieces of shit. All of you people. Garbage. Garbage in, garbage out. This is his second report, but nothing's different. Wait a second. Back up. Okay. This was added to the overall report. To links. So on 2/4/2022, I was working the 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. shift as the detective sergeant. At approximately 8:50 a.m., I was contacted by Lieutenant Gallagher, who advised me that Chief Berkowitz was at 35 Fairview Road and had possibly discovered more evidence. Fucking A. Detective Taylor and I drove to the scene at 34 Fairview Road and met with Chief Berkowitz. He directed our attention to the area where O'Keefe had been discovered. I was able to discover a red broken piece of hard plastic, which appeared to have been broken off of a motor vehicle light fixture. The temperature overnight had reached 45 degrees with heavy rains, which melted most of the snow from the storms on Saturday. This revealed much of the area that had originally been covered in deep snow. I photographed the broken plastic as it was in the snow and will attach it to this report. State Police CPAC unit was notified and responded to the scene. Chief Buchanan was just in the area and he arrived and secured the item into evidence. Fucking A. Thank you. Oh, Stephen Mulvaney. Here we go. Let's see. On Wednesday, January 29, 2022, I, Officer Mulvaney, was assigned to patrol the east sector of Wednesday. What? God, what is wrong with these people? It wasn't Wednesday, right, buddy? Okay, good. Upon my arrival, Canton Fire Department was arriving on scene. Officer Seraph had already been on scene. When I exited my cruiser, I observed a female party attempting CPR on the victim in the snow. As I approached the victim, Canton Fire Department began CPR. I then assisted Canton Fire Department with lifting the victim onto a stretcher. The victim was then taken by the stretcher to the ambulance. At this time, Officer Sheriff asked me to assist in getting witnesses' information. I spoke with McCabe, Jennifer. I asked McCabe who was the victim, and she identified him as O'Keefe. McCabe then explained to me that a group of people had gone out to Waterfall Grill and Bar in Canton earlier in the night. Jennifer stated that she and her husband left the bar at approximately 12 and went to her brother-in-law's house at 34 Ferry Road. McCabe then told me that O'Keefe and his girlfriend Reed were invited to 34 Ferry Road but never arrived. I asked McCabe if she possibly knew how long the victim had been where he was found, and she told me he was dropped off by Reed sometime between 12 and 1. What the fuck? Hello? Why are we talking about this? Here's your motherfucking witness. Right out of her mouth. Right out of her mouth. Canton Mulvaney states right here that he spoke. I asked McCabe if she possibly knew how long the victim had been where he was found, and she told he was dropped off by Reed sometime between 12 and 1. McCabe then told me that she was called by Reed at approximately 5 o'clock, wondering if she knew where John was. At this time, Sergeant Good arrived on scene, and the victim was transported to Good Samaritan shortly after. McCabe said he was dropped off between 12 and 1. This is the guy that wasn't in cahoots with these other motherfuckers. This is the guy, he's young, and right here, McCabe, he interviews McCabe. Hey, do you know how long how long he's been, where he was found? And she told he was dropped off by Reed sometime between 12 and 1. Unbelievable. While talking to McCabe, Reed was hysterical and distraught and repeatedly screaming, "Is he dead? And that's my boyfriend." Sergeant Good then advised Roberts Carey to take Reed home. After Reed and Roberts left, Canton Control advised officers that Reed was making suicidal statements to her father. Roberts then brought Reed back to the scene where Sergeant Good asked me to fill out a Section 12 paperwork, and she was transported to Good Samaritan Hospital. I stayed on scene and assisted Sergeant Good, Detective Blank, Sergeant Gallagher, all these people. Thank you, Mr. Mulvaney, for telling the truth. The fuck is this? I stand with my family 100%. You don't fuck with them. You do, I fuck you up, bitch. Tim Albert, what a fucking class act. Order, and then our final piece of paper that we will show is the order of preservation of cellular phones. After hearing on defendant's oral motion for preservation of the cellular telephones at issue in defendant's motion for order pursuant to blah, 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 blah. Okay. It is hereby ordered as follows. The Commonwealth shall notify Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, Matthew McCabe. Thank you. Julie Albert, Brian Higgins, Colin Albert, and Julie Nagel that they shall preserve any cellular telephones that they use between January 28, 2022 and February 28, 2022, and shall not alter, delete, destroy, or in any way manipulate any of the electronic data associated with the cellular phones at issue. By giving the following notice on the letterhead of the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office and or by email using an official state issued email address together with a copy of this order. You are hereby notified that the defense in the case of although the title of this motion only lists 4 names, the motion also relates to the cellular telephones used by Nicole Albert, Matthew McCabe, and Julie Nagel. There you go. All right, guys, that's going to be a wrap here. The facts are the facts, the facts, the facts. Once they set the date for the trial, then that's when we will be live broadcasting Karen Reed 2.0, Bev's Bingo. Otherwise, we won't be speaking about Karen Reed until the trial starts. There's nothing really to speak about unless there's some breaking news with a motion filed in, and it has to do with anything that Lana thinks that they should go after. Yeah, that's how I feel. Now I'm going to go rest up my voice. Any new filings today? Not that I know of. Not that I know of. Thank you, Kimmy. $10 Cash App, Kimmy. Appreciate you. Oh, I wanted to thank some other people here. I got these later, and I didn't know that I got them. So, I wanted to thank you for all that you do. Thank you, Kimmy. That was very kind. Sherry, baby. $10 Pick'em Challenge. She's in. Liz, with love and respect from Vermont. Oh, love you, Liz. $75. Thank you. Anna, it's not that much, but thank you for Friday. Layla, 20. Thank you. Happy Friday. Adam, I love when I see boys' names. Bulldogging it. Stepping on toes. Fuck yeah. Thank you so much. Tanda, thank you for Brent and the truth of everything. Aw. Thank you. Anderson, you're awesome. Truthful journalism. Appreciate you. $25. Penny, thanks for all of your hard work Thursday. $20. Mary, thank you. Lana, wish it was more of. You're such a sweetheart. And then I think I had something on PayPal. I can't remember. Do you? Dana, $50. Thank you so much. March 7th. No. This thing is just acting up. Again, thank you. Oh, God, my voice is killing me. My throat. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted at the stupidity. People are fighting with each other. I don't even know what's going on. This case is fucking out of control right now. Just out of control. Brian Colbert case is out of control. All these corrupt motherfuckers. You sick son of a bitches. Yeah. But it's okay, guys. Don't worry. We got Bev's Bingo. Bev's Bingo is going to keep us fucking fresh and fly. So we'll get the rest of those out. I did some scratches, but did Lana mention if the noon live is still happening? Yes, it is. I am going to push it back. I just need a break for my throat for a minute. So I'm going to start at 1. I'm going to have lunch and rest my throat for an hour. All right, guys. See you on the flip side. Peace.